Louisiana is a land of moss-covered oaks, bayous shrouded in mist, and a history steeped in secrets. Among its swamps and forests lie shrines that most dare not visit after sunset, shrines connected to ancient witchcraft, voodoo rituals, and dark pacts. Tonight, we will explore 25 of Louisiana's most haunted shrines, where shadowy figures appear at night, strange symbols are etched into the ground, and whispers of spells long forgotten echo through the trees. Each shrine carries a history of mystery, tragedy, and unquiet spirits who refuse to leave. As you approach these sacred yet cursed places, listen carefully. The wind may carry faint chants. The moss may conceal ghostly figures. And the air may thrum with energies that the living are not meant to sense. These shrines are not just haunted, they are portals to a past that still reaches into the present. The Voodoo Queen Shrine in New Orleans sits tucked behind a veil of moss-draped oaks, hidden from the bustling streets and neon lights that define the city. Locals claim the shrine did not always exist in its current form. Tourists often pass it without ever knowing it exists, but those who do find their way there speak of an energy that is impossible to ignore, an energy that feels ancient, watchful, and alive. Those who do find their way there speak of an energy that is impossible to ignore, an energy that feels ancient, watchful, and alive. It is a place rumored to honor a forgotten priestess, one whose influence never truly left the French Quarter, even after her earthly life ended. One whose influence never truly left the French Quarter, even after her earthly life ended. Before it was a small stone altar surrounded by weathered candles. It was simply a patch of earth where an unnamed voodoo queen once performed rituals for protection, healing, and vengeance. Her followers kept the location alive through whispered stories and secret gatherings. Over time, the city grew around it, but the shrine remained stubbornly unchanged, as if protected by forces that refused to let it vanish. Visitors often describe the atmosphere as unnervingly quiet, even though New Orleans rarely sleeps. The air grows still, the chatter of insects fades, and even the breeze seems to pause out of respect or fear. Those who step close to the shrine say it feels like walking into a circle of unseen observers. The shadows beneath the trees deepen, and the scent of incense, though no candles burn, seems to cling to the air. People speak in hushed voices, not because they are asked to, but because the place demands it. It is here where many report their most unsettling encounters. Some tell of shadowy figures moving in slow, deliberate motions around the shrine, as if performing rituals invisible to the human eye. These shapes flicker like candle flamesa, sometimes tall, sometimes crouched, sometimes appearing just at the edge of vision before dissolving into the darkness. A handful of witnesses insist the figures wear veils or cloths, though none can say they saw them clearly enough to describe. They simply know they were not alone. At times, strange symbols appear on the stones surrounding the shrine. Visitors have photographed them only to find the images blank when they review their cameras. The symbols range from spirals to intricate patterns resembling ancient sigils. Guides who lead nighttime tours say the markings are never the same 2 nights in a row. They appear and vanish as if carved by hands long gone, hands that still remember the rituals of a different era. Some believe these symbols are protective, while others think they are warnings to those who linger too long. Whispers are the most commonly reported phenomenon, soft, murmuring voices that drift through the night air. Many describe them as fragments of chants or incantations spoken in a language they cannot identify. The whispers seem to circle visitors, rising and falling like waves, sometimes circling around a single person before fading into silence. A few claim they have heard their own names spoken, the syllables stretched and distorted, as though the spirits were testing the sound. Those who hear it often leave immediately, overwhelmed by a chill that settles deep in their bones. There is also a peculiar sensation visitors describe, a feeling of being watched not by one presence, but by many. It is not aggressive, but it is undeniably intense, as though the shrine is a crossroads where the living and the unseen share the same ground. People explain that the longer they stay, the heavier the air becomes, pressing down on their shoulders until they feel compelled to leave. Some interpret this as a sign of spiritual power, while others believe it is the voodoo queen herself observing those who dare venture too close. Despite the eerie reports, many locals respect the shrine and advise outsiders to approach with reverence rather than fear. In the culture of New Orleans, spirits are not always malevolent. Where energy lingers, where the past refuses to be forgotten, and where the boundary between worlds thins just enough for travelers to feel its presence. Nighttime is when the shrine is most active. The forest canopy filters the moonlight into pale beams that fall across the stones. Sometimes visitors catch glimpses of faint lights hovering near the altar, blue, white, or occasionally red, glowing softly before drifting away like fireflies. Others describe sudden gusts of warm wind, though the air around them remains cold. More than a few have reported hearing the rhythmic tapping of drums in the distance, syncing with the whispers like a ritual in motion, though no musicians can be found anywhere nearby. Those who return from the shrine often struggle to explain what they experienced. They say it is not something you simply see or hear, but something you feel, a presence older than the city itself, woven into the soil and stone. Whether one believes in spirits or not, the Voodoo Queen Shrine has a way of leaving a mark, a lingering sensation that the shadows behind the trees are still watching, still waiting, still performing rituals that never truly ended. Visitors come seeking answers, chills, or stories to take home. But most leave with something else entirely. The unmistakable feeling that the Voodoo Queen still walks among them. Her spirit forever bound to the rituals of the night. St. Roch Cemetery Shrine in New Orleans stands as one of the city's most spiritually charged places, a spot where devotion, history, and the supernatural intertwine. Surrounded by wrought iron gates and time-worn mausoleums, the shrine sits quietly within the cemetery grounds, its white chapel gleaming beneath the Louisiana sun. Yet despite its peaceful appearance, visitors have long whispered of strange encounters of phantom figures moving between headstones, soft chants rising from empty corridors, and cold drafts that brush across the skin like the touch of unseen hands. The shrine was established in the 19th century after a local priest prayed to St. Roch for protection during a deadly epidemic. When the community survived, grateful citizens began leaving offerings of crutches, prosthetic limbs, tokens of healinga, and the shrine soon became a place of hope. But with hope came something else, something older and deeper. Locals believe the energy of those prayers lingered long after the people left, mingling with the restless spirits already wandering the cemetery's narrow paths. Visitors who enter the cemetery often describe a sudden shift in atmosphere. One moment they are walking beneath bright daylight, the next, the air cools abruptly, and a heaviness settles over the grounds. Some say it feels like stepping into a different world, a place where time moves slowly. And the boundary between the living and the dead is thin and fragile. The silence inside the cemetery seems almost deliberate, broken only by the distant hum of the city and the soft rustle of the wind. It is among the rows of graves that people first see the phantom figures. They are described as faint silhouettes, their forms shifting like smoke. Some appear dressed in old-fashioned clothing, long coats, veils, or robisa, while others are little more than shadowy outlines. These figures move with purpose but without sound, gliding between tombs. Witnesses often try to follow them, only to find empty pathways where the figures once stood. A few have seen these phantoms gather near the shrine itself, standing in silent clusters as if participating in a forgotten ritual. Their heads bow, their hands lift slightly, and though their movements are slow and barely visible, they give the impression of prayer or something that looks very much like it. Visitors have reported watching these gatherings from several yards away, too afraid to move closer. When they finally blink or turn away, the figures disappear, leaving behind nothing but still air and the faint scent of incense. Chants are another common phenomenon at St. Roch Cemetery Shrine. Tourists have described hearing rhythmic murmurs floating through the mausoleums, sometimes soft as a breeze, other times loud enough to echo between the graves. The voices never seem aggressive. Instead, they sound like a group engaged in communal prayer, repeating lines in a language most cannot recognize. Some believe these are the voices of past practitioners, of people who once sought healing at the shrine and now continue their rituals in the afterlife. Others think they belong to spirits tied to the cemetery, drawn to the shrinia's energy and unable to leave the place that once brought them comfort. One unsettling detail, shared by many visitors, is the sensation of cold drafts that sweep across the cemetery without warning. Even on hot afternoons, the temperature can drop suddenly, chilling the skin and raising goosebumps. These drafts often accompany the phantom chants, giving listeners the sensation of standing in a circle of unseen beings. A few have felt these cold spots tighten around them, like a silent crowd gathering close before drifting away again. Locals say this is a sign that the spirits are passing through, watching, listening, perhaps even protecting the sacred ground they once cherished. Inside the chapel, the energy becomes even more intense. Offerings left by the faithful line the walls: braces, dolls, candles, photographs, and messages scribbled in shaky handwriting. Some visitors hear faint footsteps on the chapel floor, as if someone is pacing behind them. Others feel a tap on their shoulder or a soft tug at their clothes, though no one stands near. The most sensitive guests describe a heavy pressure in the chest, a feeling that the room is filled with invisible onlookers waiting for something to be said or offered. Despite these eerie experiences, there is a sense of reverence at St. Roch's Cemetery Shrine. The spirits here do not feel maliciosa, only present, lingering in a place that once brought them hope and healing. Many visitors leave with a strange mix of fear and comfort, as though they walked through a doorway into the past, and return touched by something greater than themselves. The cemetery's supernatural reputation has spread far beyond New Orleans, drawing ghost hunters, historians, and curious travelers. Yet those who know the shrine well urge visitors to show respect. They believe the spirits here are guardians of the space, practitioners who never fully departed, and who now protect the sanctuary with unwavering devotion. To them, the phantom figures and whispered chants are not warnings, they are reminders that faith leaves echoes, and that some places never truly empty. As dusk settles and shadows stretch across the marble tombs, the cemetery grows even quieter. The faint chants return, the cold drafts drift through the corridors, and the phantom figures appear once more among the graves. Whether they are spirits, memories, or remnants of long-ago rituals, their presence is undeniable. St. Roch's Cemetery Shrine remains a place where the living walk carefully and the dead walk freely, their stories stitched into the night air of New Orleans. Congo Square in New Orleans is more than a historic landmark, it is a living echo of centuries-old rituals, music, suffering, resilience, and spiritual power. By day, it appears as a peaceful open space within Louis Armstrong Park, shaded by sprawling oaks and surrounded by quiet walkways. But at dusk, the energy shifts. The air grows heavy with rhythm, and the spirits of long-ago gatherings rise to reclaim the place where their voices once filled the night. For generations, Congo Square was a meeting ground for enslaved Africans who were allowed to gather on Sundays. Here they danced, drummed, traded, chanted, and practiced spiritual traditions that blended African belief systems with the Creole influences of New Orleans. Those rituals left an imprint so strong that many believe the ground still carries the pulse of the past. Even now, long after the drums have fallen silent, visitors report hearing ghostly rhythms rolling across the square as the daylight fades. The phenomenon commonly described is the sound of distant drumming, soft at first, like someone tapping on a wooden surface. Then it grows louder, deepening into a rhythmic beat that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Some say the drumming shifts between patterns, echoing the ancient rhythms once used for communication and ceremony. The sound often stops abruptly when someone tries to record it, only to start again the moment they lower their phone. Those who have heard these phantom drums describe the experience as immersive. It feels less like listening to a sound and more like being enveloped by it. The vibrations seem to tremble beneath the feet, as though the earth itself is beating like a living heart. Some visitors swear they have seen dust rise in small circles on the ground, moving in sync with the invisible drums, as if dancers long gone are still performing rituals only they can see. Shadowy shapes also appear in the corners of the square as night settles in. They often linger near the trees or drift just beyond the lamplight. Witnesses describe them as tall, fluid forms that move gracefully, almost rhythmically, as though swaying to music. Sometimes they appear in groups, forming loose circles that resemble the dance rings once common in Congo Square. Other times, a single figure stands motionless, watching from a distance before fading into the darkness. These apparitions are not merely fleeting glimpses, they are often felt as much as seen. People speak of the hairs on the back of their neck rising, or a sudden warmth spreading across their skin, as if someone is standing close behind them. Others feel an overwhelming sense of being observed, not with hostility, but with intense scrutiny. The spirits here, locals say, are guardians of the site. They watch how visitors behave, especially as night approaches. Congo Square holds a sacred place in New Orleans' spiritual and cultural memory, and many residents warn that disrespecting the site comes with consequences. Stories circulate of those who mocked the rituals or disturbed the space only to leave with sudden misfortune. Illness, strange dreams, unexplained bad luck. Of these tales are whispered as warnings, reminders that the energy in Congo Square is powerful and alive. Whether these curses are the work of the spirits or simply the weight of guilt manifesting, no one can say for certain. But the stories persist, passed down through families for generations. One commonly repeated tale involves a visitor who laughed at the idea of ghostly drummers and kicked at the dirt in the center of the square. According to locals, he slipped later that night on a perfectly dry street and broke his arm. Another story tells of a tourist who pocketed a small stone from the site as a souvenir. She reportedly mailed the stone back weeks later, along with a letter begging forgiveness, claiming she had suffered nightmares of faceless dancers circling her bed every night since her visit. Despite the eerie stories, Congo Square is not considered a malevolent place. Those who respect the site often describe feeling a deep sense of connection, as though the spirits acknowledge and welcome them. Some musicians say they come here in the evening to seek inspiration, feeling guided by rhythms only the spiritually attuned can perceive. A few visitors claim to have smelled incense or heard faint singing accompanying the drums, suggesting that the spirits are actively recreating the gatherings of their past. At dusk, when the sky burns orange and purple above the square, the atmosphere becomes charged. The wind carries whispersa soft, melodic, sometimes almost like chanting. The ghostly drummers begin their nightly ritual, tapping out rhythms that echo across time, calling forth memories of ancestors who once used this place as a sanctuary of culture and survival. By full dark, the square often feels crowded, though no one is there. The shadowy shapes drift in and out of view, the air pulses with faint percussion, and the weight of unseen eyes presses gently on the living. It is here, in this liminal hour, that the divide between past and present disappears. Visitors find themselves standing not in a modern park, but in a sacred space, alive with spirits who refuse to be forgotten. Congo Square remains one of New Orleans' most powerful supernatural sites, an intersection of history, culture, and lingering spiritual presence. Those who walk respectfully may feel the rhythm of centuries beneath their feet. Those who do not may find that the spirits of the square are quick to remind them why this ground is sacred. Bayou Savage Shrine in Orleans Parish is one of the most secluded and mysterious sites in the Louisiana wetlands. Hidden deep within the swamp, far beyond the popular boardwalks and wildlife trails, it lies in a place where the modern world seems to dissolve the moment you step off the beaten path. Here the air grows thick with humidity, the reeds hiss softly in the breeze, and the water reflects the moonlight like a sheet of shifting silver. But what draws visitors is not the beauty of the swampa, it is the presence that lingers, an unseen force that seems to watch from the shadows and whisper from the marsh. The shrine is little more than a weathered wooden platform, half sunken into the mud, surrounded by cypress trees, whose roots twist like ancient serpents. Some say the structure marks the remnants of an old voodoo ritual site. Others believe it was once a place where fishermen prayed for safe journeys through the treacherous marsh. Whatever its origins, the shrine now stands as a silent beacon for those who dare to explore the swamp at night. Visitors who wander there after sunset frequently describe seeing spectral figures near the water's edge. They appear as pale silhouettes rising from the mist, shaped like men and women, but moving in ways no living body could. Some glide across the surface of the bayou without disturbing the water. Others stand partially submerged, their lower halves hidden beneath the dark water, as if rooted to the swamp floor. The figures never speak or approach, but they watch with an intensity that sends chills through the bravest explorers. These apparitions often appear just as the moon begins its ascent. Many have reported seeing them all at once, 5 or 6 figures lining the shore, facing the same direction, their forms shimmering as though the swamp itself were shaping them out of fog and moonlight. Then, as quickly as they appear, they fade into the reeds, leaving only ripples where none should be. Equally unsettling are the strange symbols carved into the surrounding trees. The etchings seem ancient, spiraling shapes and jagged patterns cut deep into the bark. During the day, they look like old markings made by knife or stone, but at night they take on an otherworldly glow. Witnesses describe a faint blue or green luminescence that pulses gently, like a heartbeat. The glow is often brightest when the spectral figures appear, as though the symbols are responding to their presence. Some believe the symbols are protective signs meant to guard the shrine. Others think they serve as guides for spirits moving through the swamp. A handful of locals insist the symbols are warnings and messages carved long ago to keep people away from the place. Whatever their meaning, the glowing marks draw the eye and compel the imagination, leaving visitors torn between fascination and dread. The atmosphere in Bayou Savage changes drastically once darkness settles. The sounds of the swamp shift from the familiar chirping of insects to something far more unsettling. Whispers drift across the water, sometimes so clear that visitors spin around, convinced someone is standing behind them. The voices rarely form full words. Instead, they echo like fragmented sentences carried on the wind. Some describe them as urgent, others as mournful, but nearly all agree the whispers seem directed at whoever stands near the shrine. A group of late-night explorers once claimed that the whispers grew louder when they stepped onto the wooden platform. They described hearing multiple voices overlapping, rising and falling like a chant. One member of the group felt a cold pressure on her shoulder, as though a hand had gripped her in warning. They left immediately, and even from several yards away, they said the whispers followed them until they reached the main trail. Cold drafts are also common around the shrine, even on swamp nights thick with heat. These sudden chills swirl around visitors' legs or brush across their faces like icy breath. Many believe these drafts signal the movement of unseen spirits drifting across the bayou. A few brave individuals have tried to linger, hoping to make sense of the whispers or follow the glowing symbols deeper into the swamp. But they often return pale and shaken, unable to explain the fear that seized them. Local fishermen speak of a woman's figure that appears farther down the waterway, where the bayou narrows into a dark corridor of trees. She is described as wearing a long, flowing gown that trails behind her like mist. Her face is never visible, but those who have seen her say she raises an arm slowly, pointing toward the shrine before fading into darkness. Some believe she is a guardian spirit. Others think she is trying to warn intruders of something far more dangerous lurking in the swamp. Despite its haunting presence, the Bayou Savage Shrine is treated with respect by the communities surrounding it. Elders in the area tell stories passed down through generations, insisting that the spirits of the bayou are ancient and powerful. They warn visitors never to mock the whispers or disturb the glowing symbols. To do so, they say, invites misfortunia boats overturned, strange illnesses, or nights filled with terrifying dreams of shadowy figures watching from the water. For those who explore the shrine with reverence, however, the experience can be strangely profound. The swamp, alive with ghostly echoes and glowing markings, feels like a place where the past is not gone but merely hidden beneath layers of mist and moonlight. The spirits do not seek harm, they simply protect what is sacred, ensuring that the secrets of Bayou Savage remain undisturbed. In the stillness of the night, with the whispers brushing the water and the spectral figures lingering just beyond reach, visitors understand why this place is unlike any other. The Bayou Savage Shrine is not merely a haunted location, it is a living fragment of mystery, a reminder that some stories breathe forever in the wild corners of Louisiana. Oak Alley Plantation in Vatry, with its iconic canopy of ancient oak trees stretching like a cathedral toward the sky, is a place steeped in history and shadow. By day, the alleys of trees gleam with sunlight, their branches weaving patterns across the path. But after nightfall, the plantation reveals a different identitia, one shaped by memory, sorrow, and the lingering presence of those who once walked its grounds. At the far edge of the property lies the Oak Alley Plantation Shrine, a small, weathered clearing surrounded by darkened trunks and thick moss. It is here where visitors report the most chilling encounters. The shrine itself is little more than a stone pedestal and a ring of earth worn smooth by time. No one knows exactly who built it. Some say it was created by enslaved people seeking comfort and protection during the harshest days of their lives. Others believe it was once a secret meeting place for spiritual practitioners who blended African traditions with local folklore. Whatever its origin, the site pulses with an energy that many say is impossible to ignore. As dusk approaches, the oak trees seem to come alive. Their twisted branches cast long shadows across the shrine, and the air grows heavy, thick with humidity and silence. Guests who venture close often describe a sudden chill, as though the temperature drops by several degrees without explanation. Visitors speak of silhouettes drifting between the tree tall forms, shorter forms, sometimes entire groups that move as one. Their shapes flicker like smoke, shifting slightly with each glance. Some appear in old-fashioned clothing, long skirts, loose shirts, or headscarves. Others wear indistinct shadows, as though their identities dissolved long ago. They never speak, never approach, but their presence is unmistakable. They stand near the shrine, and under the moonlit branches, their energy feels both mournful and protective. The phantom figures are not the only strange phenomenon reported. One of the most unsettling involves flickering lights that appear around the shrine. Guests often mistake them for candle flames, though no candles burn there. The lights dance softly, glowing in blues, whites, or pale yellows, as if guided by invisible hands. They hover along the edges of the clearing, sometimes clustering together before drifting apart like fireflies made of ghostly energy. Some witnesses claim the lights respond to movement. When a person steps closer to the shrine, the lights will retreat slightly, pulsing as they fade. Others report lights rising vertically into the trees, disappearing into the thick canopy with a sudden flash. Attempts to photograph or record these lights usually fail. The images come back blank or filled with blurry streaks that do nothing to explain what was seen. Along with the lights come the chants, soft, rhythmic, and carried on the wind. The voices are faint at first, almost like distant humming. But the longer one listens, the clearer the sounds become. The chants do not match any known language, though they carry the cadence of prayer or ritual. Some describe the voices as layered, multiple tones rising and falling together. Others say the chants shift direction, sometimes coming from the trees, other times from the ground itself, as though the earth remembers the footsteps and prayers of those long gone. A few guests have reported hearing specific words, names repeated in breathy whispers, or sounds that resemble old spiritual songs. The chanting is rarely threatening, but it fills the air with a solemn weight that demands respect. Many believe the voices belong to the spirits of enslaved people who once found solace in the shrine, performing rituals to hold on to hope and identity in a world that offered them little comfort. The wind at Oak Alley plays tricks as well. On still nights, gusts will sweep through the clearing in sudden bursts, carrying scents of resin, smoke, or old wood. Visitors say these gusts often accompany the chanting or the appearance of the flickering lights. The wind curls around ankles, brushes across shoulders, or sweeps through hair as if guided by unseen fingers. Some guests feel as though the spirits are trying to communicate or warn them of something lurking deeper within the shadows. Even more unsettling is the sensation of being watched. The massive oaks, with their twisting trunks and moss-draped branches, seem to hold a silent audience of eyes. Guests describe feeling surrounded, not by malice but by an overwhelming presence that demands reverence. It feels as though the spirits of the plantation gather in the branches, watching over the shrine, ensuring that those who enter respect its history. There are accounts of visitors who ignored warnings or treated the site lightly. Those individuals often leave the plantation Shekinah overwhelmed by sudden headaches, dizziness, or a sense of being followed. Guides whisper that disrespect angers the spirits, who still protect the sacred ground they once relied on. Stories circulate of misfortunes following those who mocked the chanting or attempted to tamper with the shrine. Despite the haunting atmosphere, Oak Alley Plantation Shrine is not considered a place of danger. Instead, it is a place of deep memory, where the echoes of the past refuse to fade. The spirits here seem to carry the weight of history, honoring the rituals and resilience of those who came before. For visitors who approach with humility, the shrine offers an extraordinary glimpse into a world preserved in shadow and moonlight, a world where voices still chant, figures still gather beneath the oaks, and lights flicker in patterns no living hand could replicate. In the quiet hours of the night, when the plantation settles into stillness, and the trees sway softly in the breeze, the ghostly lights, the phantom figures, and the chants carried on the wind form a tapestry of memory. That keeps Okalea's secrets alive, an eternal ritual, watched over by spirits who refuse to be forgotten. Laura Plantation in Vatry carries a history as complex as the stories passed down through generations. Its brightly painted Creole-style buildings, surrounded by lush greenery and ancient oak trees, seem peaceful at first glance. But for those who linger after the sun dips below the horizon, the atmosphere transforms. Shadows deepen, the air grows still, and hidden among the moss-draped grounds lies the Laura Plantation Shrinia, a place where the boundary between history and haunting blurs into something unmistakably supernatural. The shrine is tucked near the back of the property, a modest clearing surrounded by oak branches that twist overhead like interlocking fingers. A low stone structure sits in the center, its surface worn smooth, as though countless hands once rested upon it. No records mention the shrine officially, but locals say it predates the plantation itself. Some believe it was used by enslaved families who practiced their rituals in secret, blending old-world spirituality with the realities of their harsh lives. Others think the Shrinia's origins stretch even further back, to the indigenous peoples who inhabited the land long before plantations were built. Visitors who find the shrine often speak first of the shadows. They move differently here, slow, fluid, and purposeful. Instead of flickering with the shifting moonlight, they seem to glide among the trees as though they belong to something alive. Some guests describe seeing tall shapes drift between the trunks, pausing at the edge of the clearing as if observing the living. Others report smaller, quicker silhouettes darting behind bushes or slipping between patches of moss, too fast to follow but too solid to dismiss as imagination. The moss-covered grounds amplify the eerie sensations. The thick green draperies hang heavily from branches, stirring with every faint breeze. But near the shrine, the moss sways even when the air is still. It ripples softly, almost rhythmically, as though reacting to movements invisible to the eye. Some visitors claim that when the shadows pass close to the moss, the strands lift slightly, trailing behind the shapes as if reaching out toward them. Then there are the Whispersa, soft, distant, and impossible to trace. They drift through the clearing like fragments of an old story being retold by unseen narrators. The whispers carry tones of chanting, murmured instructions, and names repeated with reverence or warning. Though the words rarely form anything recognizable, the cadence suggests ritual. These whispered rituals often grow clearer when the night deepens. A few brave guests spent extended time near the shrine claim the whispers swell into harmonium, multiple voices rising and falling together in a haunting rhythm. The sound may come from the shrubs, the branches, or even directly behind a person, yet turning around reveals only darkness. Guides on nighttime tours often speak of hearing their own names whispered faintly, even when no one stands near them. Cold drafts also sweep through the shrine with startling frequency. Even in the thick Louisiana heat, visitors have felt sudden icy gusts that curl around their ankles or brush across their faces. The drafts move with intent, flowing through the clearing like unseen figures drifting past. Some describe the sensation as a quick chill that vanishes as soon as it arrives. Others experience a lingering cold that remains even after they leave the shrine. The cold spots are often strongest when people stand close to the stone structure at the center. Touching the stone is said to intensify the feelinga. Its surface may be warm from the day's sun, yet some report their hands turning numb within seconds. A few visitors have even claimed to see their breath when they exhaled, despite the warm night air around them. The shadows, whispers, and cold drafts have led many to wonder what still occupies the shrine. Some believe the spirits of enslaved men, women, and children return to the site where they once sought solace or strength. Others think the spirits may be guardians, watching over the land that holds centuries of pain and resilience. There are also stories of practitioners from long ago who performed rituals here, and whose echoes still resonate through the moss and wind. Local folklore includes tales of a woman in a white headscarf who appears among the shadows, guiding lost travelers back toward the main path. Witnesses say she never speaks, but her presence feels warm and protective. Conversely, some claim to have encountered a darker figure, tall, indistinct, and lingering near the stone structure. This figure does not approach, but seems to guard the shrine fiercely, watching every movement with silent authority. Despite its haunting nature, the Laura Plantation Shrine is not regarded as a place of malice. Instead, it exudes a deep, solemn reverence. The air feels thick with memory, and every rustle of moss or flicker of shadow seems to carry a piece of history. Visitors who treat the site with respect often leave with a powerful sense of connection, as though they brushed against something sacred. Those who mock the whispers or disregard the Shrinia's history, however, speak of troubling dreams in the nights that follow. Visions of standing among the moss-covered grounds, surrounded by chanting voices and shadowy figures that draw closer with each breath. The dreams fade eventually, but the lingering dread remains. In the quiet hours of night, when the wind stills and the moss hangs heavy over the shrine, they remind the living that stories never truly die. They drift in the shadows, whisper through the trees, and sweep past in cold drafts, guardians of a history carved into the earth, watching over the land they once knew too well. St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 in New Orleans has always been a place where history, tradition, and the supernatural sit side by side. But the shrine within its oldest corridors holds a reputation that goes far beyond the ordinary. Visitors who wander its narrow aisles after sunset say the air changes the moment they approach the heart of the cemetery. The temperature drops, the wind seems to hush itself, and the silence grows so heavy that every footstep feels like an intrusion. The shrine, worn by time and carved into stone blackened by generations of candle smoke, becomes a stage for events that no living witness can fully explain. Those who return from nighttime tours often speak first of the atmosphere thick, unmoving, and strangely expectant. Many describe feeling as though they are being watched long before they see anything unusual. Even seasoned guides, who walk the cemetery daily, admit that there are corners they prefer not to linger in. The shrine is one of them. Locals insist that the spirits of old practitioners, mourners, and guardians still move through the cemetery, performing rituals that have outlived their earthly lives. The most common story involves ghostly figures seen near the shrine after midnight. Visitors report silhouettes appearing between the tombs, robed shapes that glide rather than walk. These figures seem to gather around the shrine as if drawn by an ancient calling. There are no lanterns, no candles, no visible sources of light, yet faint glimmers flicker against the stone as though flames were dancing where none exist. Witnesses say the figures sway as if in ceremony, their movements coordinated and deliberate, but eerily silent. Their presence carries the sense of something sacred, something powerful, and something not meant to be disturbed. Some visitors have heard murmured chanting, low and rhythmic, drifting across the crypts. The sound never seems to come from a specific direction. Instead, it surrounds the listener, echoing through the cemetery walls and vibrating faintly beneath the ground. A few describe it as a language they cannot recognize, while others believe it resembles the hymns and incantations once used by spiritual practitioners who lived in New Orleans centuries ago. People often stop in their tracks, waiting for the voices to shift into something recognizable, but the sound fades as suddenly as it began, leaving behind only the rustle of distant leaves. A chilling detail shared by many is the feeling of unseen hands brushing past them. Some compare it to a soft tug on their clothing, others to fingertips grazing their arms or neck. It is never aggressive but unmistakably present, as though spirits are passing by, brushing through the living as easily as they move through the dead. One visitor described it as a handshake without a hand, an acknowledgement from something that exists just beyond sight. Even more unsettling are the symbols that appear on the stonework around the shrine. Tour guides insist they do not carve them, and the cemetery staff finds no explanation for their sudden presence. Visitors will walk by in the early evening and see only smooth marble, weathered but untouched. Hours later, the same surface may bear markings of crosses, triangles, spirals, or symbols that seem to blend religious and spiritual traditions. These carvings look freshly etched, as though someone worked on them moments before, yet no tool marks or footprints are ever found nearby. By morning, many of the symbols have vanished again, leaving only faint traces or disappearing entirely. Locals say it is the work of spirits continuing their rituals, marking and unmarking the stones as part of ceremonies older than anyone alive. The shrine also seems to affect sound in strange ways. People walking near it often hear footsteps behind them, quick and light, but when they turn, the path is empty. Others hear muffled conversations, as if a gathering is occurring just out of sight. The wind itself behaves differently here, pushing sudden cold drafts into the warm night. At times, these chills feel like someone exhaling directly against the back of the neck. Visitors frequently wrap their arms around themselves, trying to shake off the cold, but the feeling lingers until they step away from the shrine. Some believe the shrine serves as a crossing point, a place where the barrier between the living and the dead thins enough for spirits to revisit long-abandoned customs. Others think the rituals continue because the spirits never truly left, only shifted into a world where time no longer matters, and tradition persists without interruption. Locals who have grown up with the stories warn visitors to show respect, to walk with care, and to never mock or disturb what they do not understand. St. Louis Cemetery remains a landmark of New Orleans, rich with history and heavy with the weight of countless lives. But the shrine within its walls is more than a historical artifact. It is an active, breathing echo of the past, a place where ceremonies continue in silence, where symbols appear from nowhere, and where ghostly figures honor rituals that death could not extinguish. Those who wander near it leave with the same whispered understanding. In this cemetery, the dead do not simply rest, they remember. They gather, and sometimes they reach out. Magnolia Mound Plantation in Baton Rouge carries a quiet beauty by day. But by night, the grounds transform into something far more mysterious. The old shrine tucked beneath a cluster of ancient trees has developed a reputation that even locals hesitate to discuss aloud. Visitors who wander too close report that the air grows denser, heavier, as though the past still clings to every root and stone. In this place, time feels layered, present moments folding over the memories of those who once lived, worked, and prayed here. And when the sun sinks behind the horizon, the plantation's serenity gives way to something far more haunting. Many who venture near the shrine speak of phantom figures appearing between the trees, shapes that look human but dissolve into shadow the moment anyone tries to look directly at them. These figures drift along the pathways as though following routes they memorized in life, paths worn into the soil long before modern visitors ever arrived. Some appear in old-fashioned clothing, their outlines shimmering in the dim moonlight, while others are little more than silhouettes gliding among the oaks. They vanish almost instantly, slipping behind tree trunks or dissolving within the tangled darkness of the forest. A few witnesses describe seeing multiple figures at Oncia, almost as if a gathering is taking place. These apparitions stand in a loose circle near the shrine, their movements faint and rhythmic. From a distance, it looks like a ritual frozen between worlds, reenacted night after night by spirits who never abandoned their old practices. But to anyone who dares approach, the figures disappear, leaving behind only an uncanny stillness and the lingering sense that the ceremony has simply paused until the living depart. The sounds that accompany these visions are even more unsettling. Visitors often report hearing whispers drifting through the trees, soft and indistinct, as though disembodied voices are chanting spells in a forgotten tongue. The words never rise loud enough to be understood, but their cadence is deliberate and strangely hypnotic. People describe it as a low hum at first, then a murmuring chorus that seems to come from all directions. Stranger still is the faint laughter that echoes across the grounds, usually when the night is at its quietest. The laughter sounds distant, almost playful, yet it chills the listener to the bone because it comes when no one else is visible. Some describe it as a woman's voice, lilting and melodic. Others say it resembles the laughter of a child, light and fleeting. Regardless of its source, the sound never comes from the same place twice, leaving visitors spinning in confusion as they try to distinguish echoes from reality. Several people who have felt brave enough to linger near the shrine say the environment changes in subtle but unmistakable ways. The wind shifts direction unexpectedly, brushing against the skin like careful fingertips. The temperature drops sharply, even on humid Louisiana nights. More than one person has reported feeling a presence stand behind Thema, close enough to sense breath on their neck, only to turn around and find nothing. Others feel as though invisible hands lightly push them back from the shrine, as if warning them not to step any closer. Some visitors have claimed to see strange symbols carved into the bark of the trees surrounding the shrine. These symbols seem to glow faintly under moonlight, though they often vanish by morning. Plantation staff deny making them, and attempts to document them often photographs come out blurred, or the markings disappear entirely when viewed through a camera. Locals whisper that the symbols are part of old rituals once performed on these grounds, symbols meant to protect the living or bind restless spirits. Whether carved by human hands long ago or created by something far older, no one can say for certain. The area around the shrine also seems to distort sound in unnatural ways. Footsteps echo strangely, repeating themselves, as if someone is following even when the path is empty. The rustling of leaves grows unnaturally loud, and nighttime insects quiet themselves as though intimidated by whatever moves through the shadows. Some nights, the plantation feels alive with motion, branches trembling, grass shifting, and faint shapes darting between the trees. Yet whenever a flashlight sweeps across the landscape, nothing tangible appears. Local folklore says the shrine at Magnolia Mound was once a place of deep spiritual significance. Some believe it served as a secret meeting spot for practitioners who sought solace and strength away from prying eyes. Others think the spirits lingering there are those who found comfort in its rituals during their lifetimes. Whether these spirits return out of devotion, duty, or longing remains unclear. But few deny the power the shrine still holds. Those who respect the space often leave with only an eerie memory. This is the end of the passage. Those who mock, disturb, or ignore its energy sometimes claim to experience strange dreams, whispers in the night, or the feeling of being watched long after leaving the plantation grounds. Locals always offer the same advice: approach with reverence, listen carefully, and never underestimate what resides between the trees. Magnolia Mound Plantation remains a place where beauty and mystery intertwine, where phantom figures drift through moss-draped branches and whispers of old spells ripple through the night air. For those who stand near the shrine after dark, the past is not gone yet, it simply lingers. Waiting, watching, and gently reminding the living that not all stories fade with time. Destrehan Plantation, one of the oldest standing estates in Louisiana, carries centuries of history within its weathered walls and sprawling oak-lined grounds. But beyond the tours and restored rooms lies a quieter, more secretive corner of the property, an old shrine hidden near the rear pathways, where the land feels heavier and the air grows still. It is here, among the fading trails and moss-draped trees, that visitors report some of the eeriest experiences connected to the plantation. What begins as a simple walk often ends in a chilling encounter with shadows, symbols, and whispers of rituals long forgotten. Many who come to Destrehan speak of an unusual feeling the moment they step onto the old pathways leading toward the shrine. Even during the day, the shadows seem deeper here, more rooted. The oaks bend overhead, their branches forming a canopy that dims the sunlight and turns the air cool and quiet. As evening approaches, the silence becomes more profound, almost expectant, as though the land recognizes the fading light and waits for something to awaken. It is around dusk that the first reports of shadowy figures usually begin. Visitors walking along the pathways catch glimpses of movement, heated dark silhouettes drifting slowly across the trail, never in a hurry, always just out of clear view. Some figures resemble tall, thin forms dressed in old-style clothing, while others appear as indistinct masses of darkness that glide rather than step. They cross the paths silently, disappearing into the trees as though they were never solid to begin with. When approached, they dissolve into the gathering dusk, leaving behind only a cold draft and the sense of unseen eyes watching from the underbrush. As if someone is following, but keeping their distance. Yet the footsteps continue, sometimes circling, sometimes pacing, as though measuring or guiding, but undeniably present. That once took place along these very trails, preserved in the atmosphere and replayed when night comes. The shrine itself sits near an old fence line, partially hidden by creeping vines and the thick roots of nearby oaks. Visitors who find it often describe feeling an immediate shift in inertia, an invisible heaviness pressing gently against them, neither hostile nor welcoming, simply aware. The wooden fence posts surrounding the area are covered with carved symbols. Some markings resemble intricate spirals, others look like crosses, triangles, or shapes blended from different spiritual traditions. During the day, these carvings appear old and weathered, worn down by years of exposure. But at night, the symbols change. Witnesses have seen them glow faintly under the moonlight, emitting a soft, pulsing light like embers hidden beneath ash. The glow is never brighter, just enough to outline the shapes, illuminating them with a color that sits between silver and pale blue. Some visitors claim the symbols shift position, new markings appearing while others fade. No one can explain why the etchings glow or how they remain so crisp despite the age of the wood. Plantation staff deny carving them, and attempts to photograph the glowing symbols often fail, resulting in blurred or blank images. Several guides and guests have also reported seeing figures near the fence line, standing silently with their backs turned, their heads bowed as though praying or performing a ritual. These figures never react when approached. They simply vanish into thin air, leaving behind a lingering scent of damp earth and old wood. One guide recalled seeing an entire line of shadowy forms moving slowly along the fence before slipping behind the shrine and disappearing completely. Visitors who linger too long describe feeling waves of coldness sweeping over them, even during the oppressive heat of Louisiana summers. Some say the cold feels intelligent, almost probinga brushing against their arms, swirling around their legs, or resting on the back of their necks. Others feel as though they are being gently pushed back from the shrine, as if something unseen is encouraging them to leave while they still can. There are stories of strange lights flickering near the shrine as well as small, floating orbs that drift between the trees. They move with purpose, weaving through the air and circling the fence line before blinking out like dying stars. Locals believe these lights are spiritual manifestations tied to rituals once practiced on the plantation. Whether they are protective or warning signs remains unclear. Despite the eerie encounters, locals maintain a deep respect for the shrine. Many believe it marks a place of spiritual importance, where echoes of old traditions still linger. Some say the spirits who remain are guardians, watching over the land and ensuring its history is not forgotten. Others think the rituals performed here in the past left behind energy that continues to move, breathe, and act even without human presence. Visitors leave Destrehan Plantation with trembling voices, insisting they saw figures walking the pathways or symbols glowing along the fences. Skeptics dismiss the stories as tricks of the light or the imagination stirred by the plantation's atmosphere. But those who have felt the chill, heard the whispers, or seen shadows slip between ancient trees know better. At Destrehan Plantation, the past is not silent. It moves along the pathways, traces glowing symbols into wood, and watches from the edges of the night, waiting for anyone brave enough to walk its haunted grounds. Whitney Plantation in Wallace, Louisiana, stands as one of the most solemn and historically significant sites in the region. By day, it is a memorial to those who lived, labored, and suffered on the land, a place where their stories are preserved with reverence. But when the sun lowers and shadows begin to stretch across the old fields, the atmosphere shifts into something altogether different. It is then that visitors speak of the shrine near the grove of Trisa, a quiet, hidden space where the past seems to gather and breathe, refusing to be forgotten. People who wander near the shrine often describe the first sign of something strange as an unexpected chill drifting through the air. Even in the heavy Louisiana heat, a cold draft will slide across the skin like an icy ripple of breath. It is not a breeze, nor a shift in the weather, but something more deliberate, more conscious. The cold lingers, weaving around ankles, brushing against arms, following visitors as they move deeper among the trees. Some describe it as the sensation of walking through invisible figures, as though spirits pass through them with quiet intention. Soon after the cold settles in, the chanting begins. The chanting is one of the most consistently reported experiences at Whitney Plantation's shrine. Soft at first, almost like a hum or a whisper, it grows in clarity the longer one listens. The voices come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Some sound distant, like echoes drifting from beneath the earth. Others feel close, frighteningly close, as though unseen lips hover inches from the listener's ear. The words themselves cannot be understood as they shift between languages, tones, and rhythms, seeming to blend spiritual traditions and lost dialects. But the meaning, the emotion behind the chanting, is unmistakable: sorrow, reverence, longing, and perhaps a plea for remembrance. Visitors who follow the paths near the shrine often feel as though the chanting trails behind them, matching their footsteps. If they stop, the chanting softens. If they continue walking, it swells again, moving with them, following through the trees like an unseen procession. Some describe the sensation as being escorted. Others say it feels more like being watched, measured, and silently acknowledged by those who once lived on the land. The phantom figures themselves are seen most often at dusk, when the last light filters through the moss-draped branches. People walking the grounds around this time sometimes catch movement out of the corner of their eye, dark silhouettes drifting behind the trees, shadows stepping between the trunks with slow, deliberate purpose. These figures never make a sound. They are tall, thin shapes, often appearing in multiples, as though groups of spirits still wander the grounds together. A few visitors recall seeing them lined quietly along the tree line, watching with an intensity that cannot be described in words. When approached, the figures dissolve into the fading light, melting into mist or slipping behind the nearest trees. The moment they vanish, the cold intensifies, sweeping around the observer like a silent warning or a solemn reminder that they are not alone. The chanting, too, grows louder when the figures disappear, as though the voices reclaim the moment, filling the air with a chorus that resonates deep in the chest. Some guests have felt a gentle tug on their clothing while walking near the shrine. Others report the sensation of hands resting lightly on their shoulders or brushing through their hair, soft enough to be mistaken for wind but purposeful enough to raise goosebumps. On rare occasions, visitors claim to hear a whisper directed at them personalia, a name they do not recognize or a phrase they cannot understand, spoken in a tone that is neither threatening nor welcoming, but simply aware. The trees surrounding the shrine also play their part in the haunting. Their branches sway without wind, their roots seem to shift beneath the soil, and sometimes the bark appears etched with faint shapes and lines that vanish when touched. At night, the entire grove takes on an otherworldly glow, as though illuminated from within. Some visitors swear they have seen flickering lights among the leaves, like lanterns being carried by invisible hands during some long-forgotten ritual. Locals believe the shrine marks a spiritual boundary on the plantation, a place where voices from the past gather, where rituals once performed for survival, strength, and mourning still echo through the land. The phantom figures, they say, are guardians of memory, ensuring that the stories of those who passed here are never erased by time. The chanting is believed to be a continuation of old traditions, songs and prayers meant to bless the living and honor the dead. Whether these phenomena are fragments of history replaying themselves or conscious spirits reaching out to the present, the impact on visitors is undeniable. People leave Whitney Plantation feeling shaken, humbled, or strangely comforted. Some feel as though they were watched from beginning to end. The phantom figures, they say, are guardians of memory, ensuring that the stories of those who passed here are never erased by time. Others believe they were guided safely through the grounds by forces they cannot see. A few insist the chanting continued in their ears long after they left, following them until dawn. Whitney Plantation remains a place of deep reverencia, a memorial that holds both pain and resilience. And near the hidden shrine among the trees, the past is more than memory. It moves with the windless air, speaks through invisible voices, and stands silently in the shadows, reminding all who enter that history is alive, and that some spirits never stop walking the land they once knew. Felicity Plantation in St. James Parish is known for its long history and sprawling grounds. But few visitors speak openly about the shrine hidden deep within the Estatia's older sections. It is a place where the past lingers with a weight that is almost tangible, and those who venture too close often report experiences that defy explanation. At the center of a small clearing sits the shrine itself, an arrangement of moss-covered rocks. worn by centuries of rain and sun. Around it, the earth feels denser, the air heavier, as if time itself slows, giving the past a chance to reach forward and touch the present. Visitors approaching the shrine often first notice the sudden shift in atmosphere. Even on warm Louisiana days, the temperature drops, and a quiet settles over the clearing that is at once peaceful and unsettling. It is the kind of silence that demands attention, broken only by the faint rustling of leaves or the distant call of night birds. But this stillness is deceptive. Beneath it, something mavisa, something unseen, watching, waiting. Shadowy figures are reported frequently near the old shrine rocks. Some appear tall and thin, drifting between the trees with slow, deliberate movements, while others are smaller, darting quickly along the ground as if their presence cannot fully manifest in the living world. Visitors describe catching glimpses out of the corner of their eyes, only to turn and find nothing there, though a lingering sense of awareness remains. On rare occasions, several figures appear together, lined up along the edges of the clearing, or circling the shrine as if performing a ritual. Accompanying the figures are whispers that float through the air, low and fragmented, as though ancient voices are carried on the wind. The words cannot be understood, but the rhythm suggests chant or prayer, ritualistic in nature. Some visitors report hearing repeated syllables or phrases that rise and fall in intensity, growing louder as one approaches the rocks and fading when they step back. Others claim the whispers echo personal names, though they do not belong to anyone in the group present. The effect is haunting. The sound feels alive, as though the voices are aware of the living intruders and are observing their movements with quiet curiosity. The oppressive presence near the shrine is another commonly reported phenomenon. Many visitors describe feeling a heaviness pressing down on their shoulders or a weight in their chest that makes every step feel laborious. The sensation is not sharp or painful, but it is pervasive, following them along the clearing and even through the surrounding grove. Those who linger too long often speak of a sensation that Summonia or Somthinga is keeping pace with them, remaining unseen yet unmistakably close. The rocks themselves seem to hold the memories of the past. Their surfaces are etched with subtle marks that some interpret as ritual symbols, though their origins are unknown. During the day, they appear weathered and natural, but under the dim light of dusk or moon, the markings seem to shift, catching faint glimmers as though reflecting a presence invisible to the eye. Many visitors claim that when standing close to the shrine, the rocks seem to vibrate softly, or pulse with an energy that is felt more than seen. At night, the shrine becomes a place of heightened activity. Shadowy figures appear more frequently, whispers grow more distinct, and the oppressive energy becomes almost tangible. Guests report that even a slow, careful walk around the clearing can feel like passing through invisible hands that brush against them or guide them in subtle ways. Some experience brief glimpses of flickering lights among the trees, small orbs that dart behind branches before disappearing completely. Others hear faint laughter or the echoes of voices that vanish as quickly as they are heard, leaving only the cold weight of presence behind. The reactions of visitors vary widely. Some leave terrified, their steps quickening as if the unseen figures might follow them beyond the clearing. Others are compelled to remain, fascinated by the ethereal dance of shadows and whispers, feeling as though they have stepped into a world where time and death have no meaning. Many report that even after leaving the plantation, they carry the sense of being watched, the whispers echoing in their minds long after the experience ends. Locals who know the history of Felicity Plantation caution respect for the shrine. It is said to be a place where spiritual practices once flourished, where rituals were performed to honor ancestors or seek protection. The spirits who remain, according to legend, are guardians of the land, bound to the shrine by devotion or duty. Those who disregard its energy, mock its rituals, or linger too long without respect are said to feel the oppressive presence more acutely, sometimes even encountering restless dreams in the nights that follow. Felicity Plantation Shrine is not merely a historical site, it is a living echo of centuries past. Shadowy figures move among the moss-covered rocks, whispers of rituals float through the air, and the weight of unseen presence follows every step. Visitors who tread carefully, with reverence for the ground they walk, leave with a heightened awareness of Historia's persistence. And for those who dare to linger after dusk, the shrine offers a glimpse into a world where the past is never truly gone, where spirits continue their ceremonies, and where every movement among the rocks is watched, remembered, and honored. And beyond. Nottoway Plantation in White Castle, Louisiana, is famous for its grand antebellum architecture, sprawling lawns, and the grandeur that evokes the opulence of a bygone era. By day, the plantation is a historical landmark, drawing visitors eager to witness its impressive columns and ornate interiors. But when night falls and the last tour groups depart, a different atmosphere descends over the grounds, one far darker, heavier, and filled with unexplainable occurrences. At the center of this nocturnal mystery lies the Nottoway Plantation Shrine, a hidden area tucked among the ancient oaks and moss-draped trees, where shadows gather and the past refuses to remain silent. A sudden chill snakes across the skin, brushing against the arms, neck, and back as though unseen fingers are tracing the living. The temperature drops in ways that defy natural explanation, and the normally serene wind seems to pause, leaving an eerie stillness in its place. This unnatural quiet is the first indication that the shrine is no ordinary part of the grounds. As darkness thickens, shadowy figures begin to appear. Guests often catch glimpses from the corner of their eyes tall silhouettes, standing silently beneath the oak trees, their presence solid yet ethereal. They remain motionless for long stretches, unmoving, as if observing the visitors' every step. Occasionally, multiple figures can be seen, spaced along the perimeter of the clearing or clustered near the shrine itself. They do not approach or interact with the living, yet their presence carries an undeniable weight, making the air feel heavier with each breath. When observed directly, these figures sometimes dissolve into mist, vanishing as though the night itself swallowed them. Along with the shadows come the whispers, low and insistent, threading through the branches and across the open lawns. The words cannot be understood, but the cadence suggests incantation or ritual, a rhythm repeated with intent. Visitors often feel the sound wrap around them, as though invisible voices are weaving a spell in real time. Some report hearing the whispers rise and fall in harmony, layered like multiple people chanting together, yet when they attempt to locate the source, there is no thinga. Only the vast expanse of darkened trees and the quiet rustling of leaves. The cold drafts that accompany these phenomena add another layer of unease. One moment, the air feels still. The next, a gust sweeps unexpectedly across the clearing, brushing along the spine or encircling a persona's ankles. These drafts are unlike any natural wind. They twist and move with purpose, often following visitors as they walk the grounds. Some describe the feeling as the passing of countless unseen presences, circling them without ever revealing themselves. It is both unsettling and strangely mesmerizing, a reminder that the living are not alone within the Shrinia's shadow. The shrine itself is small but commanding. A circle of stones marks the center of the clearing, worn smooth by centuries of exposure. Around the edges, ancient oaks stretch their branches outward, forming a natural canopy that further isolates the space. Visitors report that the shadows often congregate near the stones, standing in silent vigilance. On some nights, faint lights flicker across the rocks like embers caught in an unseen window, casting irregular shadows across the ground. These lights are brief, flickering in unpredictable patterns, yet they enhance the sense that the shrine remains active, its rituals continuing long after their human practitioners have passed. Those who linger near the shrine often describe a heightened awareness of time. Steps feel heavier, breaths come slower, and the sense of being watched is almost palpable. Some report hearing their own names whispered among the chants, though no one else is present. Others feel subtle nudges or tugs, as if invisible hands are guiding them, urging them to move, to leave, or to observe in silence. The combined effect of shadows, whispers, and drafts creates an experience that is simultaneously terrifying and awe-inspiring, leaving visitors aware that they are standing in a space far older and more potent than it first appears. Local lore surrounding the Nottoway Shrine suggests that it was a place of spiritual significance, where rituals were performed to honor ancestors, seek protection, or communicate with the beyond. Others say the shadows are guardians, ensuring that the sacred energy of the site is never disturbed by the living. Attempts to photograph or record the phenomenon often fail, producing blurred images or silent audio where voices had seemed to linger, further reinforcing the sense that the shrine exists in a layer of reality that cannot easily be captured by technology. The shadows, whispers, and cold drafts are difficult to forget. They imprint themselves on the senses in ways that photographs or stories cannot fully convey. Some feel a profound reverence, humbled by the presence of forces that have existed on the land for generations. Others leave unsettled, as if they have brushed against a world that exists just beyond human comprehension, where rituals continue and spirits stand watch silently in the moonlight. The Nottoway Plantation Shrine is more than a historical landmark. It is a living testament to memory, devotion, and the unseen threads of the past. Phantom figures drift silently among the oaks, whispers of ancient spells float across the grounds, and cold drafts trace invisible paths through the night air. Those who step into its clearing are reminded that the past is not gone yet, endures, watching, waiting, and forever, marking the land it once knew. Evergreen Plantation in Wallace, Louisiana, is widely recognized for its historical significance, with its grand antebellum structures and centuries-old oak trees evoking the weight of the past. Yet beyond its restored buildings and manicured lawns lies a part of the plantation that is rarely discussed openly, the Evergreen Plantation Shrine. Hidden beneath the dense canopy of moss-draped trees, this shrine is a place where history and the supernatural seem to intertwine, and where visitors often experience events that defy explanation. The atmosphere here is thick with memory, and the night air carries an energy that is impossible to ignore. Those who approach the shrine often describe a sudden shift as they enter the clearing. Even in warm evenings, a cool chill brushes against the skin, moving along arms and shoulders in a way that feels deliberate rather than accidental. The surrounding air grows heavy, almost expectant, and a hush falls over the trees. The most frequently reported phenomenon involves phantom figures gliding silently near the old shrines. Visitors catch glimpses of dark shapes moving among the trees or across the clearing, their motions smooth and purposeful, as though they are retracing paths they once walked in life. These figures are rarely detailed, they appear as tall, shadowy silhouettes, but the sense of awareness they carry is unmistakable. Some seem to linger near the small stone or wooden shrines, standing in solemn vigil, while others drift along the perimeter of the grove, passing between the trees with an otherworldly grace. Attempting to approach them often results in the figures fading into the shadows or dissolving into the night air, leaving only a lingering presence. Adding to the eerie atmosphere is the behavior of the candles that adorn some of the shrines. Visitors frequently report seeing flames flicker violently without any wind, or light igniting briefly where no candle had been placed. The glow of these candles casts dancing shadows across the ground, illuminating the surrounding trees in ways that make the moving silhouettes appear more tangible. Sometimes, the flickering seems to respond directly to the movement of the ghostly figures, as if the spirits themselves are manipulating the light. Even experienced guides and staff admit that there is no logical explanation for the phenomenon. The candles burn steadily during the day, only to behave unpredictably after nightfall. Faint chanting often accompanies these visual phenomena, adding an auditory layer to the haunting. The voices are soft, almost indistinguishable at first, rising and falling like a windless hymn carried through the trees. Visitors describe it as neither malevolent nor comforting, but deliberate and ritualistic, as if unseen participants are performing a ceremony whose meaning has been lost to time. The chanting can seem close enough to touch, yet when one turns to locate its source, the grove appears empty. In some cases, the sound appears to follow visitors as they move between the shrines, a reminder that they are not alone and that the space itself remains alive with unseen activity. Many people report a mixture of awe and unease while visiting the shrine. Some feel the gentle brushing of cold air against their skin, as though invisible hands pass over them, moving with intention rather than randomness. Others experience a profound sense of being watched, an unshakable awareness that unseen eyes are following their every step. It is this combination of movement, sound, and chill that leaves an indelible impression, making it clear that the plantation's past is far from silent. The shrines themselves are simple yet commanding. Small arrangements of stone, wood, and moss mark areas where rituals may have been performed in the past, their surfaces worn smooth by generations. Some are decorated with candle holders or carved symbols, many of which seem to hold energy that transcends time. Locals believe these are sacred markers, places where spiritual practices were maintained and where the boundary between the living and the departed is thinnest. The presence of phantom figures, flickering candles, and chanting seems to confirm that these rituals continue in some form, observed and perhaps maintained by those who once inhabited the land. Even long after leaving the plantation, visitors report residual effects from their experiences. Some describe hearing whispers or faint chanting in their homes at night, as if the spirits had followed them, or feeling cold drafts where no wind exists. Others speak of dreams that replay the clearing and its shadows, reinforcing the impression that Evergreen Plantation Shrine is more than a physical location. It is a space where the past persists, refuses to be forgotten, and continues to interact with the living. Evergreen Plantation Shrine stands as a testament to the power of memory and ritual. Phantom figures glide silently near the moss-draped shrines, candles flicker without cause, and faint chanting echoes in the night. Candles flicker without cause, and faint chanting echoes in the night. Those who visit are reminded that the plantation is not merely a relic of history, but a place where spirits linger, ceremonies endure, and the boundary between the past and present remains fragile. And the boundary between the past and present remains fragile. For anyone standing beneath the ancient oaks in the moonlight, it is impossible to ignore the feeling that the land remembers, watches, and continues to perform its unseen rituals long after the living have departed. It is impossible to ignore the feeling that the land remembers, watches, and continues to perform its unseen rituals long after the living have departed. Watches, and continues to perform its unseen rituals long after the living have departed. Long after the living have departed. For anyone standing beneath the ancient oaks in the moonlight, it is impossible to ignore the feeling that the land remembers, watches, and continues to perform its unseen rituals long after the living have departed. Laura Street Bayou in Vacherie, Louisiana, is serene by day, with still waters reflecting the surrounding cypress trees and Spanish moss. Yet as the sun sets and mist rises from the bayou, the area transforms into something otherworldly. At the heart of this foggy expanse lies the Laura Street Bayou Shrine, a small, weathered site tucked along the water's edge, where the living often feel the presence of the past lingering in ways that defy explanation. Visitors describe it as a place where shadow and sound intertwine, where unseen forces brush close, and where history continues to breathe through the mist. The first indication of the Shrinia's strange energy often comes with the mist itself. Even on warm nights, a damp chill seeps through the air, curling along the ground and wrapping around anyone who approaches. The fog is heavier here than in the surrounding bayou, thick enough to blur the shoreline and shroud the trees in a pale gray veil. Within this haze, shapes begin to emerge, dark silhouettes moving slowly near the water. Figures that seem human in form but unreal in substance. These shadowy presences drift along the edge of the bayou, gliding across the ground. They do not walk in the conventional sense, yet their motion is deliberate, intentional, and hauntingly fluid. Visitors often report that the figures seem aware of their presence. When watched from a distance, they maintain a still, almost meditative posture, as though engaged in ritual. Approaching too closely, however, causes them to dissolve into the mist, leaving behind only the faint ripple of water and the lingering sensation of being observed. Some have described seeing multiple forms moving in synchrony, circling the shrine or drifting along the bayou as if performing a ceremony invisible to the living eye. Accompanying the ghostly figures are strange sounds that seem to emerge directly from the mist. Many visitors speak of incantations or whispers that float through the air, soft at first but growing steadily louder as one draws nearer to the shrine. Many visitors speak of incantations or whispers that float through the air, soft at first but growing steadily louder as one draws nearer to the shrine. The words cannot be understood, yet the tone is unmistakably ritualistic, carrying a rhythm and cadence that feels older than memory itself. At times, the chanting seems to respond to the movements of the visitors, ebbing and rising with each step. Some say the voices are layered, overlapping, as if multiple presences speak in harmony from different corners of the fog. The effect is mesmerizing, almost hypnotic, and leaves the observer feeling both awed and deeply unsettled. Another phenomenon reported near the shrine is the sensation of unseen forces brushing past. Visitors describe the feeling of fingers grazing their arms or shoulders, a light pressure on the back of the neck, or a subtle tug as though being guided along the edge of the water. It is never threatening, yet the presence is undeniable, persistent enough to make even the most skeptical pause in recognition of something beyond sight. On rare occasions, the sensation is accompanied by a sudden, inexplicable drop in temperature, a coldness that spreads quickly and sharply, lingering for moments before fading into the natural humidity of the bayou. The shrine itself is modesta, a small collection of rocks and wooden markers partially hidden by overgrown vegetation. Moss and lichen cover much of the stone, softening its contours, but in the moonlight, the shapes appear distinct and deliberate. Some visitors have reported faint symbols etched into the surfaces, visible only under the dim light, and others claim to see flickering glows that illuminate the shrine for brief, inexplicable moments. The combination of mist, shadow, and subtle illumination gives the area an ethereal quality, making it appear suspended between the world of the living and that of the departed. Local folklore holds that the shrine was once a site of spiritual practices, used by those who sought to honor ancestors or communicate with unseen forces. Some believe that the shadowy figures are spirits who linger to maintain these old rituals, moving in repetition of customs long abandoned by the living. For many who visit Laura Street Bayou Shrine, the experience leaves a profound impression. Witnesses often describe a heightened awareness of the natural world, of the stillness of the water, the weight of the mist, the sound of distant night creatures as. The stillness of the water, the weight of the mist, the sound of distant night creatures as though every element participates in the haunting. Some leave with a lingering sense of calm, touched by the reverence of the unseen presences. Others are unsettled, their minds replaying the figures and whispers long after they have left the bayou. Laura Street Bayou Shrine remains a place where history, memory, and the supernatural converge. Shadowy figures glide silently near the water, whispers of incantations drift through the mist, and unseen forces brush against anyone who ventures too close. The air itself feels alive with the weight of what has come before, and the night transforms the bayou into a stage where the past continues its rituals in secrecy and shadow. Those who wander here after dark are reminded that the bayou does not forget, that the spirits who once honored it are still present, watching, moving, and echoing across the water in the dim glow of the moon. Oakwood Plantation in New Orleans Parish is renowned for its sprawling oak trees, their massive limbs draped in silvery Spanish moss, casting long shadows over the grounds. But as dusk falls and the mists roll in from the nearby bayous, the atmosphere around the old shrine tucked among the oaks becomes eerily alive. Visitors often speak of experiences that defy logic, of sensations and sights that hint at the lingering presence of the past, and of a shrine where the boundary between the living and the dead seems impossibly thin. The first indication that the Oakwood Shrine is unlike any other part of the plantation often comes as a chill that cuts through even the warm Louisiana evening air. The mist seems heavier here, curling between the massive oak trunks and settling close to the ground. It obscures vision, muting sound, and creating an uncanny stillness that immediately sets visitors on edge. In this silence, the first glimpses of ghostly figures often appear as shadowy silhouettes moving slowly among the oaks. Their forms vaguely human, yet impossibly ethereal. These figures drift with purpose, gliding along the pathways and through the underbrush, never stepping on the ground in a natural way, yet leaving an undeniable impression of presence. The figures are rarely fully visible, appearing only in fleeting moments at the edge of sight. Visitors describe them as tall, dark shapes with an indistinct form, sometimes appearing alone and other times grouped as if performing some hidden ceremony. When approached, they vanish silently into the mist, leaving behind only the faintest outline in the fog, as if the night itself swallows them whole. Despite their fleeting nature, the sense of being observed is constant. Those who linger too long often feel the weight of unseen eyes following their movements. An oppressive yet mesmerizing sensation that makes every step cautious and deliberate. Adding to the otherworldly nature of the shrine are the strange symbols etched into the bark of the surrounding oaks. Visitors report that the markings are faint by day, often difficult to distinguish from natural scars on the trees. But as night falls, they seem to glow with a subtle spectral light. Some claim the shapes resemble intricate spirals, crosses, or abstract designs whose origins are unclear, while others say the etchings appear to shift or move subtly when observed for more than a moment. The faint glow casts shadows on the ground, dancing across the leaves and the undergrowth, giving the impression that the symbols themselves are alive, pulsating with energy left behind by long-forgotten rituals. Whispers accompany the figures and glowing symbols, drifting through the mist like currents of air carrying voices from another time. The words are rarely intelligible, more tones and syllables than speech, yet they carry a weight and urgency that cannot be ignored. Some visitors describe them as chants, others as warnings, and still others as echoes of curses meant to protect the shrine from intruders. The whispers seem to react to movement, intensifying when one approaches the more concentrated areas of the shrine, then receding when attention is turned elsewhere. The effect is hypnotic and unsettling, as if the entire grove participates in a ritual that continues unseen. The shrine itself is modest, marked by a small clearing amid the oaks, with stones and low wooden structures partially hidden beneath creeping vines and moss. These markers are worn by time and the elements, yet they exude a quiet authority. Many believe that the site was once used for spiritual practices, where rituals were performed to honor ancestors or seek protection from forces beyond the natural world. Whether the ghostly figures are remnants of those who practiced here, or spirits drawn to the energy of the shrine over the centuries, visitors universally sense a profound connection to the past that lingers long after they depart. Physical sensations accompany the spectral and auditory phenomena. Cold drafts sweep across the clearing unexpectedly, brushing along arms and necks as though unseen hands are passing through the living. Some visitors report a feeling of being nudged, subtly guided, or held in place, experiences that leave a lingering tension long after they leave the grove. The combination of shadow, whisper, and touch creates an environment that is at once terrifying and awe-inspiring, reminding all who enter that the shrine is not merely a historical artifact, but a living conduit to forces beyond human understanding. Local lore suggests that the Oakwood Shrine was a place of significant spiritual power, and that those who practiced here left behind energies that continue to echo through time. Shadowy figures, glowing symbols, and whispered curses are all seen as part of the Shrinia's enduring presence, a testament to rituals performed centuries ago that remain potent in the present. Guides caution visitors to treat the site with respect, warning that mockery or reckless curiosity can draw attention from the spirits still present. Visitors leave Oakwood Plantation with stories that linger long after the mist has cleared. Many feel humbled by the weight of history pressing against the present. Others remain unsettled by the spectral forms and whispered curses that accompanied their walk. The shrine is a reminder that the past is never truly gone. It watches, moves, and speaks in subtle ways, particularly when the moon rises and the mist settles. Among the oak trees of Oakwood Plantation, shadowy figures glide silently, symbols etched in bark glow faintly, and whispers of curses echo through the fog. For those who wander the shrine at night, the past is not a memoria, it is present, alive, and impossible to ignore, a silent witness to the rituals, the spirits, and the enduring power of a place that time itself has been unable to forget. Melrose Plantation in Natchitoches Parish, Louisiana, is a place steeped in history, its sprawling grounds telling the story of centuries past. By day, the plantation attracts visitors eager to explore its Creole architecture, lush gardens, and the quiet dignity of its preserved buildings. But when night falls, a different side of Melrose emerges, a side that is whispered about in hushed tones by locals and brave travelers alike. At the heart of the plantation lies the Melrose Plantation Shrine, a secluded area near long-abandoned buildings where history, memory, and the supernatural converge. Here, the living often feel the weight of the past pressing close, and the presence of forces unseen becomes impossible to ignore. The first sensation many visitors notice is a sudden shift in the air as they approach the shrine. Even in the warm Louisiana evenings, the temperature drops noticeably. A chill sweeps across the skin, brushing along arms and shoulders, lingering in ways that feel intentional rather than coincidental. The presence of forces unseen becomes impossible to ignore. This combination of cold and fog creates a sense of separation from the modern world, isolating the shrine in a time that feels suspended between the living and the dead. Shadowy figures are the most commonly reported phenomenon at the shrine. They drift along the edges of the clearing, sometimes pausing near doorways or windows, and at other times appearing to move with a purpose along hidden pathways. The figures are rarely seen directly. They are glimpsed from the corner of the eye, vanishing when looked at straight on, leaving only the lingering sense of a presence that is attentive, deliberate, and watchful. Accompanying the figures are soft, haunting chants that seem to emerge from the very air. The words are not intelligible, yet their tone is unmistakably ritualistic, echoing across the abandoned buildings and through the trees. Some visitors report the chants rising and falling in layers, almost as if multiple voices are performing a long-forgotten ceremony in perfect harmony. The sounds are never loud or jarring. Instead, they weave through the mist and shadows, creating a hypnotic, almost magnetic atmosphere. Many describe the feeling of the voices following them as they move around the shrine, growing louder when they approach certain areas and fading when they retreat, as if the spirits themselves are Gedinga or Testinga the living. Another unnerving phenomenon is the behavior of candle flames near the shrine. Visitors frequently report seeing flames flicker without wind, sometimes igniting spontaneously on small stone markers or inside lanterns that have long since gone out. The flames cast irregular, dancing shadows across the abandoned buildings and the surrounding grounds, highlighting the movements of the shadowy figures or illuminating the outlines of trees in ways that feel intentional. Some claim the candles flare brighter when they focus on the figures, as though responding to the presence or energy of the unseen. The unpredictable behavior of the flames reinforces the sense that the shrine is alive, its power not merely residual, but actively interacting with those who enter its space. Cold drafts are another consistent experience reported by visitors. They move in ways that defy natural explanation, brushing along the skin, passing over the neck, and trailing closely behind anyone walking through the clearing. Some describe the sensation as a gentle hand grazing their shoulder, while others feel pressure or nudges that guide their steps without being seen. The chill is often accompanied by the whispers and chants, amplifying the sensation that the living are sharing the space with invisible presences whose attention cannot be ignored. The abandoned buildings themselves add to the eerie atmosphere. Weathered and worn, their wooden frames creak and groan under the weight of time, their windows reflecting the faint glow of candlelight or the occasional flicker of misty movement. The structures seem to hold the memory of the people who once lived and labored there, and the combination of architecture, shadows, and ethereal sounds gives the impression that the past continues to unfold in quiet, secret ceremonies. Local folklore suggests that the Melrose Plantation Shrine was a site of spiritual and ritual significance, a place where prayers and offerings were once made, and where the energy of those practices lingers. Many believe that the phantom figures are spirits of past practitioners, tending to their duties or guarding the sacred ground. The chants, flickering flames, and cold drafts are thought to be manifestations of this lingering energy, ensuring that the rituals and intentions of the past remain unbroken. Visitors leave Melrose Plantation with experiences that are difficult to articulate. Some are left awed, humbled by the sense of history and spiritual presence. Others depart unsettled, haunted by glimpses of figures, whispers of chants, and the sensation of unseen forces brushing past. Few forget the experience, and many return to the shrine in later years, drawn by its enigmatic pull. Shadowy figures glide silently near abandoned buildings, candle flames flicker without cause, and faint chants echo through the mist. Cold drafts follow every movement, a constant reminder that the past is alive here, watching, moving, and interacting with the present. For those who enter the clearing after dark, the shrine is not merely a relic of historia, it is a living, breathing testament to memory, ritual, and the spirits that have never left the grounds. Cane River Creole National Historical Park in Natchitoches Parish, Louisiana, is widely known for its rich history. During the day, visitors are drawn to the stately plantations, the rolling fields, and the quiet river that winds through the landscape, offering a glimpse into a past that shaped the region. But as the sun dips below the horizon and evening mist rises from the Cane River, a different atmosphere emerges around one particular site, the Cane River Creole National Historical Park Shrine. Here, history and the supernatural seem to converge, creating an experience that is both haunting and compelling. Those who approach the shrine often report an immediate change in the environment. The air grows cooler and heavier, and a dense mist settles over the creek and surrounding trees. The sound of the flowing water is softened, almost muffled, as if the world itself is holding its breath. It is in this altered state that shadowy forms first make themselves known. Dark shapes move silently among the trees lining the riverbank, their outlines indistinct but unmistakably humanoid. Some appear to glide effortlessly across the forest floor, while others linger in the shadows, watching with quiet attention, leaving a lingering sense of unease and fascination. The words cannot be deciphered, yet their cadence and tone suggest deliberate ritual, a connection to practices long forgotten by the living. Some visitors describe the chants as layered, multiple voices speaking or singing together in harmony from unseen locations, filling the night with a resonance that seems to vibrate through the very air. The sounds appear to ebb and flow, growing louder as one nears certain parts of the shrine and receding when attention is diverted, creating a sensation that the spirits themselves are aware of intruders in their sacred space. Adding to the eerie atmosphere are the symbols that appear on rocks, posts, and tree trunks near the shrine. Some visitors report seeing carvings that were not visible moments before. Shapes that seem to glow faintly in the dim light of dusk or moon. Spirals, crosses, and abstract designs emerge in the mist, intricate and deliberate, as if left behind by unseen hands. The symbols are fleeting, sometimes fading when approached, giving the impression that they exist partly in a realm between the living and the dead. They often appear in proximity to the shadowy figures, reinforcing the sense that the shrine remains a site of ongoing spiritual activity. The environment itself amplifies these phenomena. Cold drafts sweep across the creek and the surrounding grounds without warning, brushing against visitors' skin and sometimes circling their legs or arms. Many describe the sensation as subtle and deliberate, like invisible hands guiding, nudging, or acknowledging their presence. The combination of chill, mist, and whispers creates an immersive experience, heightening awareness and leaving visitors acutely conscious of the unseen forces surrounding them. The shrine itself is modest in appearance, a clearing near the water, bordered by ancient trees and marked by stones or wooden posts. The location is quiet, almost hidden, giving it a sense of sanctity and isolation. Local lore suggests that it was once a place of spiritual significance for the Creole communities that inhabited the region, a site for rituals, offerings, or ceremonies meant to honor ancestors, seek protection, or commune with the unseen. A site for rituals, offerings, or ceremonies meant to honor ancestors, seek protection, or commune with the unseen. Meant to honor ancestors, seek protection, or commune with the unseen. Many who visit the Cane River Creole National Historical Park Shrine describe a mixture of reverence and unease. The shadowy forms, whispered chants, and symbols convey a profound sense of history alive in the present, as though the past refuses to be forgotten. Some leave with an overwhelming sense of awe, touched by the persistence of memory and tradition. Others depart unsettled, haunted by the ethereal figures and sounds that linger in their minds long after leaving the park. Even for those who pass through quickly, the shrine leaves an impression that is difficult to shake. Some report hearing whispers in their homes after visiting, or sensing the presence of cold drafts in unexpected places. Others dream of shadowy figures among the trees, moving silently, chanting, and guarding the sacred grounds. It is clear that the Cane River Creole National Historical Park Shrine is more than a historical sitia. It is a living conduit to a past that endures, where spirits continue their rituals and where the land itself remembers. At the Cane River Creole National Historical Park Shrine, shadowy figures drift among the trees, whispered chants float across the creek, and symbols appear on rocks and posts, glowing faintly in the mist. The chill in the air, the weight of unseen presence, and the sense of history alive in every movement combine to create an unforgettable experience. For those who walk among the ancient trees and approach the waterside clearing after dusk, the shrine is not merely a memory of the pasta, it is a living testament to the spirits, rituals, and enduring energy that continue to inhabit the land, watching, waiting, and performing their unseen ceremonies long into the night. San Francisco Plantation in St. Mary Parish, Louisiana, is renowned for its striking Creole architecture, elegant grounds, and rich history. By day, visitors wander the manicured gardens and grand halls, taking in the stories of generations past. Yet as dusk falls and the shadows stretch across the plantation-esque pathways, a different energy emerges, one that cannot be fully explained. At the heart of this transformation lies the San Francisco Plantation Shrine, a secluded area tucked among the trees and gardens, where history and the supernatural converge in ways that leave visitors both fascinated and unnerved. The first thing that draws attention to the shrine is the shift in the air. Even on warm evenings, the temperature drops sharply near the pathways, and a cold, unnatural wind sweeps across the grounds. Unlike ordinary breezes, this wind moves with purpose, circling visitors, brushing along shoulders, arms, and backs, and sometimes following them as they explore. It carries with it a sense of presence, an unseen awareness that grows stronger the closer one approaches the shrine. The wind seems to stir the surrounding trees and shrubs, yet never rustles the leaves in the predictable way of nature, leaving an unsettling quiet punctuated only by the occasional creak of an old branch. Visitors often describe tall, shadowy silhouettes gliding silently along the plantation pathways, moving with a grace and fluidity that seems almost impossible. They are glimpsed from the corner of the eye, sometimes standing near the trees or gliding past the garden fences. Their forms are indistinct, darkened outlines against the faint glow of moonlight or lanterns, and they vanish when looked at directly, leaving behind only the faintest shimmer of presence in the mist. Despite their ethereal appearance, the figures carry a palpable weight, an undeniable awareness that they are being watched or observed. Accompanying these figures are whispersa low, indistinct murmurs that drift across the grounds like currents on the wind. Visitors report hearing the soft cadence of ritualistic chants and incantations, the words often unrecognizable but filled with intent. Some claim to hear multiple layers of voices, overlapping and harmonizing as if unseen participants are performing ceremonies in unison. The whispers seem to follow visitors, rising and falling depending on movement, as though the spirits are guiding, warning, or simply acknowledging those who enter their space. Even when the wind dies down, the voices persist, drifting across the plantation in a manner that is both hypnotic and disorienting. The shrine itself is modest, hidden in a grove of ancient oaks and bordered by moss-draped trees. Weathered stone markers and low wooden posts outline the space, standing like silent sentinels that have borne witness to centuries of history. The markers are often worn and covered in lichen, yet they seem to hold an energy that transcends time. Many visitors report seeing symbols etched into the stones and posts, faintly glowing in the darkness, appearing and disappearing as though illuminated by some unseen hand. Spirals, crosses, and abstract patterns emerge without explanation, their presence enhancing the feeling that this is a site of spiritual significance, maintained by forces that are no longer fully part of the physical world. Visitors often experience physical sensations alongside the visual and auditory phenomena. Cold drafts sweep unexpectedly through the grove, sometimes brushing along the skin with the light touch of invisible fingers. Some feel subtle nudges, the sensation of being guided along the pathways, or even a gentle pressure on the back of the neck, as if the spirits are nearby, observing closely. These sensations are never threatening, yet they are persistent, leaving an indelible impression on all who wander through the shrine after dark. Local folklore suggests that the San Francisco Plantation Shrine was once a place of ritual and ceremony, where offerings and prayers were made to honor ancestors or seek protection from the unseen. Many believe that the phantom figures are spirits who remain to tend the shrine, continuing practices that began centuries ago. The whispers, the cold wind, and the glowing symbols are considered manifestations of these lingering energies, a reminder that the spiritual significance of the site endures even as the living come and go. Visitors leave the plantation with a mix of awe and unease. Some feel humbled, deeply moved by the presence of something beyond human understanding. Others leave unsettled, haunted by the figures they glimpsed, the whispers that trailed them, and the cold wind that seemed to follow with intent. Few forget the experience, and many return, drawn by the mysterious pull of a place where history is not only remembered but continues to act, silently and powerfully, in the present. Phantom figures glide silently along pathways, whispers of rituals and incantations follow the living, and a cold, unnatural wind brushes along every step. Phantom figures glide silently along pathways, whispers of rituals and incantations follow the living, and a cold, unnatural wind brushes along every step. The combination of shadow, sound, and sensation transforms the grove into a space where the past is alive, where unseen forces remain vigilant, and where the boundary between the physical world and the spiritual realm grows impossibly thin. The combination of shadow, sound, and sensation transforms the grove into a space where the past is alive, where unseen forces remain vigilant, and where the boundary between the physical world and the spiritual realm grows impossibly thin. The combination of shadow, sound, and sensation transforms the grove into a space where the past is alive, where unseen forces remain vigilant, and where the boundary between the physical world and the spiritual realm grows impossibly thin. The combination of shadow, sound, and sensation transforms the grove into a space where the past is alive, where unseen forces remain vigilant, and where the boundary between the physical world and the spiritual realm grows impossibly thin. Those who visit after dusk quickly learn that this is not just a historic sitio, it is a living reminder that some presences endure, guiding, observing, and performing their unseen rituals under the cover of night. Felicity Bayou in St. James Parish, Louisiana, is a quiet stretch of winding water and moss-draped trees, where the evening mist rises thick and heavy, cloaking the shoreline in an ethereal haze. By day, the bayou is tranquil, its waters reflecting the sky and the twisted oaks along its banks, a picture of southern serenity. But as twilight deepens, a different energy emerges near the Felicity Bayou Shrine, a hidden area along the water's edge where visitors report experiences that defy explanation. Here, history, ritual, and the supernatural intertwine, creating a place where the past seems to breathe alongside the living. Unlike ordinary fog, it appears denser and almost sentient near the shrine, curling around trees, drifting along the water, and enveloping the shoreline in an otherworldly veil. Within this haze, ghostly figures are frequently reported. Dark silhouettes move silently through the mist, their forms vaguely human yet impossibly insubstantial. They glide along the water's edge, sometimes pausing as though observing, and at other times tracing paths through the trees and brush, their movements deliberate, fluid, and hypnotic. Approaching them directly often causes the figures to vanish, leaving only the impression of something watching, something that exists just beyond the reach of sight. The visual phenomena are accompanied by sound, most notably faint chanting that seems to come from nowhere. Visitors describe the voice as low, rhythmic, and haunting, filling the air around the bayou with a presence that is both mesmerizing and unsettling. The words are rarely understandable, more intonation and cadence than language, yet they carry the unmistakable weight of ritual. Some report hearing multiple layers of chanting, as if a congregation of unseen spirits is performing a ceremony just out of reach. The sound appears to respond to the visitor's movements, rising in intensity as one nears certain areas and fading when attention is diverted, giving the sensation that the spirits are aware of the living intruding on their sacred space. Adding to the shrine's eerie atmosphere are the strange symbols that appear etched in the earth. Visitors often notice markings along the soil that were not present moments before. Lines, spirals, crosses, and other geometric shapes, faintly illuminated in the dim light of the misty evening. Some claim the symbols shift or change if observed too long, giving the impression that they are not merely physical carvings, but manifestations of some unseen energy. The patterns often appear near the movements of the ghostly figures, reinforcing the sense that the shrine remains a site of active spiritual significance, maintained by presences that have lingered for generations. Physical sensations are another frequent experience at the Felicity Bayou Shrine. Cold drafts sweep unexpectedly across the clearing, brushing along arms, shoulders, and necks as though invisible hands are moving through the mist. Some visitors report subtle nudges or a guiding pressure, making them feel as if they are being led along the water's edge by unseen participants. The combination of chill, ghostly movement, and whispered chants creates a heightened awareness of the environment, making every creak of a branch or ripple of the water feel amplified and significant. The shrine itself is a modest, natural space, partially cleared among the cypress trees and bordered by the bayou's winding banks. A heightened sense of unease settles over the visitors, as the chill and mist continue to envelop them, making them feel like they are being watched. Stones, low wooden posts, and natural markers indicate the boundaries of the sacred area, though much of it is concealed beneath the moss and undergrowth. Local lore suggests that Felicity Bayou Shrine was once a place of ritual practice, where offerings were made and ceremonies performed to honor ancestors, protect the land, or commune with spirits. Many believe that the ghostly figures are the lingering energy of those who performed these rites, and that the chants, symbols, and cold drafts are manifestations of these ancient practices persisting into the present. Visitors leave the shrine with a mix of awe and unease. Some feel a profound reverence for the space, humbled by the continuity of ritual and presence across centuries. Others are unsettled, haunted by the ghostly forms and the chants that seem to echo in their minds long after leaving the bayou. Many describe dreams in which the mist and the figures reappear, moving silently along the water's edge, chanting in harmony, and etching symbols into the earth once more. Felicity Bayou Shrine is more than a historical site. It is a living space where past and present converge. Ghostly figures glide through the mist, strange symbols etch themselves into the earth, and chanting drifts across the bayou as if carried on invisible currents. The cold drafts that follow visitors, the shifting shapes in the fog, and the rhythmic, haunting sounds all serve as reminders that the site remains a conduit to a spiritual realm. Those who venture to the Felicity Bayou Shrine after dusk encounter a world where history is alive, where the rituals of long-past generations persist, and where the boundary between the living and the dead is fragile. The figures, symbols, and sounds create an immersive, unforgettable experience, revealing that some places retain the energy of the past, in ways that demand recognition and respect. At Felicity Bayou, the spirits of history are ever present, moving, observing, and continuing their unseen ceremonies, long after the living have departed. Laura Plantation in Vacherie, Louisiana, is known for its stately Creole architecture, sprawling grounds, and centuries of layered history. By day, visitors wander among the historic buildings, taking in the stories of the families who lived and labored there, the intricate gardens, and the riverbank that borders the property. Yet beyond the carefully maintained paths, deep in the backwoods near the plantation, lies a hidden shrine where the atmosphere changes dramatically after dark. The Laura Plantation Backwoods Shrine is a secluded, shadowed area where history, memory, and the supernatural converge, creating an experience that leaves many visitors both captivated and unnerved. Even on warm evenings, the temperature drops noticeably in the backwoods near the shrine, and the shadows of the cypress and oak trees deepen unnaturally. A cold, almost sentient wind seems to move through the undergrowth, brushing along arms, shoulders, and necks as if invisible hands are present. Those who linger often describe the sensation as deliberate, like being gently guided or observed by unseen presences, a feeling that can be both eerie and mesmerizing. Within this chilling atmosphere, phantom figures begin to appear. Dark silhouettes drift among the trees, their forms vaguely human but indistinct in the dim light. Others seem to linger in the shadows, pausing near old tree stumps, broken fences, or natural clearings. Approaching them directly often causes them to vanish into the darkness, leaving only the memory of a presence. The figures are rarely threatening, yet their quiet observation creates an undeniable tension that heightens every step along the backwoods trails. Accompanying these ghostly figures are whispers, soft and almost imperceptible at first, that drift through the trees and undergrowth. The words are rarely intelligible, but the tone carries the unmistakable weight of old ritual and incantation. Visitors often report hearing fragments of spells or chants, spoken in voices that seem to echo from centuries past. The whispers appear to respond to the presence of the living, growing slightly louder or more insistent as one moves deeper into the shrine, and fading when attention is diverted. Many describe the sensation as being part of a conversation with the past, a dialogue between the living and the spirits who have remained behind. Another unsettling phenomenon reported at the shrine is the sensation of cold hands brushing against the body. Visitors often feel light touches along their arms, shoulders, or back, sometimes even across the neck, as though invisible fingers are tracing the contours of their skin. The touch is rarely forceful, but it is persistent and unmistakable, leaving a shiver in its wake. Paired with the ghostly figures and the whispered chants, this physical sensation reinforces the feeling that the shrine is alive with unseen activity, that it retains an energy older than memory and more powerful than explanation. The shrine itself is unassuming but significant. Hidden among the dense undergrowth, the area is marked by moss-covered stones, weathered wooden posts, and natural clearings framed by towering oaks and cypress trees. The combination of vegetation, shadows, and mist creates a sense of isolation, as if the space exists outside the flow of time. Local lore suggests that the shrine was a site of spiritual practice, where offerings were made and ceremonies performed to honor ancestors, seek protection, or commune with the unseen. Many believe that the phantom figures are spirits of those who once tended the shrine, and that the whispers and touches are manifestations of the lingering energy left behind. Visitors often leave the Laura Plantation Backwoods Shrine with a profound sense of awe and unease. Some feel a deep connection to the past, humbled by the presence of forces older than their own understanding. Others are left unsettled, haunted by the images of figures drifting silently among the trees and the whispers of spells that linger in memory long after departing. Few forget the experience, and many find themselves returning, drawn by the mysterious pull of a place where history and the supernatural coexist in ways that are tangible and undeniable. Even after leaving the woods, the impression of the shrine remains. Some visitors report hearing fragments of chants in their dreams or sensing the cold brushes of unseen hands when alone. Others describe moments when they feel observed, as though the spirits of the backwoods have followed them from the clearing, a reminder that the Cydia's presence is not confined to its physical boundaries. At the Laura Plantation Backwoods Shrine, phantom figures glide silently near the trees. Whispered incantations float through the air, and cold, unseen hands brush against those who wander too close. The combination of sight, sound, and touch creates a hauntingly immersive experience, one in which the past is palpably alive and the spirits of long-forgotten rituals continue their presence in the present. For anyone who ventures into the backwoods after dusk, the shrine is not merely a relic of historia, it is a living, breathing testament to the endurance of memory, ritual, and the unseen forces that inhabit the land, waiting, watching, and performing their silent ceremonies long into the night. The Shadows of St. Augustine Shrine in New Orleans Parish, Louisiana, is a place where history, memory, and the supernatural converge beneath the sprawling oaks and quiet gravestones. By day, the cemetery and its surrounding grounds appear serene, a solemn resting place steeped in centuries of stories, both tragic and extraordinary. Visitors wander among the markers, reading inscriptions, and tracing the lives of those long gone. Yet as night falls, the atmosphere shifts dramatically, and the shrine becomes a space where the boundary between the living and the dead grows thin, where shadows move with intent, and where unseen rituals seem to unfold in the dark. The first hint that the shrine is more than a simple historical site comes in the air itself. The wind seems to carry more than just movementa, it carries whispers, barely audible at first, rising and falling like the murmur of a distant congregation. The mist often rolls in from the surrounding landscape, curling around headstones and monument stones, softening edges and creating an atmosphere that is both beautiful and unsettling. In this suspended state between day and night, the shrine reveals itself to those sensitive enough to notice the subtle signs of presence. Ghostly apparitions are among the most reported phenomena at the Shadows of St. Augustine Shrine. Visitors describe seeing figures emerging from the darkness, their outlines faint and indistinct, but undeniably human. Some glide silently between the graves, moving with a grace and fluidity that seems impossible for living beings. Others appear to linger near particular monuments or trees, pausing as if engaged in acts that cannot be seen but are undeniably purposeful. These figures are rarely visible in full, often appearing in the corner of the eye, vanishing when looked at directly, leaving an imprint on the senses rather than the sight. The apparitions convey a presence that is both haunting and mesmerizing, giving the impression that the spirits of the past remain close, guarding or performing their duties even after death. Adding to the eerie energy of the shrine is the behavior of candle flames. Visitors report seeing candles ignite spontaneously on old grave markers, flickering without wind, casting irregular shadows across the stone and moss-covered grounds. Sometimes multiple flames appear in a sequence along a row of graves, flickering in rhythm as though participating in some unseen ceremony. The dancing light illuminates the ghostly figures occasionally, revealing a fleeting glimpse of robes, veils, or indistinct shapes that move in time with the shadows. Whispers, chants, and murmurs accompany the visual phenomena. Visitors describe them as low and rhythmic, sometimes layered as if multiple voices speak in unison. The words are rarely recognizable, more tonal than literal, yet their cadence conveys intent to a ceremony, a prayer, or perhaps a warning. The sounds seem to emanate from the shadows themselves, drifting across the graves and moving with the figures that pass through the mist. Those who linger too long report a sensation of being observed, of the voices following their steps, sometimes growing louder as they approach certain areas of the shrine, then fading abruptly when attention is diverted. The shrine is modest yet potent, a small section of the cemetery bordered by old oaks and lined with weathered tombstones. Its atmosphere is shaped by centuries of history, by the rituals and lives of those who lived and died here, by the lingering energy of ceremonies long forgotten by the modern world. Local lore suggests that the shrine has long been a site for spiritual practice, a place where offerings were made, prayers were spoken, and rituals performed to honor ancestors or seek guidance from the beyond. Many believe the shadowy figures are remnants of these rituals, spirits that remain bound to the site, continuing their duties in silence and secrecy. Visitors often leave the shrine with a mixture of awe and unease. Some are moved deeply by the sense of connection to the past, humbled by the enduring presence of spirits who have not fully departed. Others are unsettled, haunted by glimpses of figures drifting among the graves, by candle flames that ignite and vanish, and by whispers that seem to follow them long after leaving the site. The experience is immersive, leaving a lasting impression of the unseen forces that inhabit the shrine and the delicate balance between the living and the dead in this sacred space. Even after departing, the memory of the shrine persists. Some hear the whispers in dreams, others feel the faint brush of cold air in their homes, and many recount the sense that the shadows of St. Augustine continue to watch, unseen but ever present. The shrine remains a space where the past is palpably alive, a place where rituals, spirits, and memory endure in the darkness. At the shadows of St. Augustine's shrine, ghostly apparitions glide silently among the graves. Candle flames flicker without wind, and whispers recount rituals long forgotten. The chill in the air, the dancing shadows, and the layered murmurs combine to create an atmosphere both haunting and sacred, a place where history and the supernatural meet. For those who walk its paths after dark, the shrine is not simply a cemeteria, it is a living testament to the spirits, their ceremonies, and the enduring energy that binds them to the land, performing their unseen rituals long into the night. Magnolia Bayou in Baton Rouge Parish, Louisiana, is a place where time seems to flow differently, its winding waters reflecting the sky and the dense growth of cypress and oak along its banks. By day, the bayou is serene, a quiet retreat where the gentle lapping of water and the rustle of leaves create a sense of calm. Yet as dusk falls and the fading light casts long shadows across the ground, a different presence emerges near the Magnolia Bayou Shrine, a secluded clearing along the shoreline where history, memory, and the supernatural converge in ways that defy explanation. Visitors who approach the shrine at twilight often notice an immediate shift in the atmosphere. The air grows noticeably colder, carrying a damp, almost tangible weight. The temperature drop is accompanied by a wind that moves in unexpected ways, brushing along the ground and curling around tree roots and shrubs. Unlike a natural breeze, this draft seems to have intention, sweeping across the clearing as though guiding or observing those who enter. The combination of chill, mist, and muted sounds from the bayou creates a feeling of isolation, a sense that the living have stepped into a space where the ordinary laws of nature no longer fully apply. It is within this charged environment that phantom figures begin to manifest. Shadowy shapes appear at the edge of the trees, slipping silently across the clearing, gliding with fluidity and purpose. They are rarely seen directly, often glimpsed from the corner of the eye, and vanish when faced head-on, leaving an unsettling impression of movement and presence. Some figures seem to linger near the water's edge. Others move along the narrow pathways between moss-covered trees, pausing occasionally as if tending to invisible tasks. Witnesses consistently report that the figures are deliberate in their motion, almost as if they are aware of the living who have entered their domain, and that their presence carries a weight that cannot be ignored. Accompanying the apparitions are whispers that float through the air, low and rhythmic, like fragments of chants or incantations long forgotten. The words are rarely understandable, yet their cadence conveys intent, evoking a sense of ritual or ceremony. The words are rarely understandable, yet their cadence conveys intent, evoking a sense of ritual or ceremony. Some visitors describe hearing multiple voices layered over one another. A chorus of unseen participants performing actions that are imperceptible to the living eye. The whispers seem to drift with the wind, rising in intensity when visitors approach certain areas and fading when they move away, creating the impression that the spirits are aware of every step, every motion, every hesitation. Cold drafts intensify the sense of the supernatural. Unlike ordinary air currents, they move along the ground and around trees with purposeful direction. Visitors often feel the sensation of unseen forces brushing against their legs or trailing behind them as they walk. Some report the draft circling them or following them along the pathways, reinforcing the impression that they are being observed, guided, or tested by presences beyond the physical world. The combination of these drafts, the shadows, and the whispers creates an immersive experience that engages the senses fully, leaving little doubt that the shrine retains a tangible, restless energy. The Magnolia Bayou Shrine itself is simple but resonant. Hidden among the dense vegetation, the clearing is bordered by ancient trees, their roots twisting into the earth, and by small, weathered markers that hint at the Shrinia's historical significance. The location has long been considered a sacred space, with local lore suggesting it was used for spiritual practices and ceremonies designed to honor ancestors, protect the land, or invoke unseen forces. Many believe that the phantom figures are spirits of those who once tended the shrine, continuing their rituals long after the living have moved on, ensuring that the Sitia's spiritual power endures. Visitors frequently leave the shrine with feelings that are difficult to articulate. Some describe a sense of awe and reverence, humbled by the palpable connection to a past that refuses to fade. Others feel unease, haunted by fleeting images of shadowy forms and the persistent whispering of incantations carried on the wind. Many recount sensations of being followed even after leaving, as if the spirits remain attentive, their presence lingering in memory and perception long after physical departure. Even in daylight, the memory of the shrine endures for those who have experienced it at dusk. Dreams of shadowy figures gliding silently among the trees, of whispers echoing across the misty clearing, and of cold drafts brushing against the skin are common. The Magnolia Bayou Shrine, it seems, has a way of embedding itself in the consciousness of those who enter, a reminder that the energy of the past can remain active and aware, even in a world that believes it has moved on. At the Magnolia Bayou Shrine, phantom figures appear at dusk, whispers of old spells float through the air, and cold drafts sweep across the ground as though an unseen presence is moving. The interplay of shadows, sound, and sensation creates a hauntingly immersive experience, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead feels fragile and permeable. Those who venture into the clearing after twilight quickly discover that the shrine is not merely a historical city. It is a living testament to the spirits, rituals, and enduring energies that have persisted for generations, performing their unseen ceremonies quietly, deliberately, and eternally in the misty embrace of the bayou. Bayou Sara in Pointe Coupee Parish, Louisiana, winds quietly through cypress and oak, its waters reflecting the dense canopy above and the soft glow of twilight. By day, the bayou is serene, a haven for wildlife and a window into the rich history of the region. Visitors are drawn to its still waters, ancient trees, and the remnants of plantations that once lined its banks. Yet as the sun dips below the horizon, an evening mist rises from the swamp. The Bayou Sara Shrine transforms into a place of mystery and haunting energy, where shadow and presence converge in ways that defy explanation. The first sign that the shrine is unlike any ordinary location comes in the air itself. A chill settles over the ground, moving along the water's edge and curling around the roots of towering cypress trees. The wind, subtle and unnatural, seems to have purpose, drifting through the clearing in patterns that feel deliberate. Visitors often describe the sensation of being watched, of an unseen energy guiding them along the narrow pathways, brushing against their skin with the lightest touch. Even before shadowy figures appear, the atmosphere carries a sense of expectation, as though the shrine itself is aware of those who enter its domain. Shadowy figures are a hallmark of the Bayou Sara Shrine. Visitors report seeing dark forms moving silently among the trees, gliding along the pathways, or hovering near moss-covered rocks. The figures are rarely fully visible, often appearing at the edge of vision before fading into the mist when approached. Their motions are deliberate, almost ceremonial, and some witnesses claim to have seen them pause near particular spots, tracing patterns or performing gestures too subtle to fully discern. These apparitions are never threatening, yet their quiet, purposeful presence leaves an indelible impression, as if the spirits themselves are guarding an ancient secret or continuing rites that began long before the living arrived. Accompanying these figures are whispers, soft and low, drifting through the swamp with a rhythmic cadence. The words are mostly unintelligible, fragments of chants or incantations, yet they carry the unmistakable tone of ritual. Many visitors describe the whispers as layered, overlapping in a chorus of voices that seem to come from multiple directions at once, echoing off the trees and across the water. The whispers respond to human movement, rising in intensity when approached and fading when attention is diverted, creating a sensation that the spirits are aware of intrusions and may be choosing to reveal themselves selectively. The sound, combined with the presence of the shadowy figures, creates an immersive environment that engages the senses fully, leaving visitors with a profound awareness of something beyond the ordinary. Another mysterious feature of the shrine is the appearance of symbols on trees. Symbols on trees, rocks, and other natural markers. Spirals, crosses, and abstract designs appear faintly in the dim light of dusk, glowing subtly in the mist. By morning, the markings often vanish entirely, leaving no trace of their presence. The ephemeral quality of these symbols adds to the shrinia's aura, suggesting that the rituals performed here are not only spiritual, but also tied to forces that exist beyond the realm of the tangible. They appear in areas where the shadowy figures have been observed, reinforcing the sense that the shrine remains a place of active, ongoing energy. Physical sensations are also reported by those who explore the shrine at night. Some report feeling subtle nudges, as if unseen hands are guiding their path or acknowledging their presence. The combination of mist, whispers, shadows, and cold air creates a multisensory experience that is difficult to forget. It is a place where history, memory, and the supernatural intersect, leaving a lasting impression that extends far beyond the physical location. The shrine itself is a small clearing along the bayou, framed by ancient cypress and oak trees and bordered by rocks and natural markers. Local lore suggests that the site was used for ceremonial practices by those who lived and worked in the surrounding lands, honoring ancestors, invoking protection, or maintaining a spiritual connection to the swamp and river. Many believe that the shadowy figures are the spirits of practitioners who remain bound to the shrine, continuing rituals long after the living have departed. The whispers, symbols, and cold drafts are seen as manifestations of this ongoing spiritual activity, evidence that the energy of the past remains alive and aware. Visitors leave the Bayou Sara Shrine with a mixture of awe and unease. Some are moved by the sense of connection to history and the persistence of unseen presences. Others are haunted, unable to shake the images of figures moving silently through the mist, the whispers echoing in memory, and the symbols that vanish by dawn. Even after leaving, the shrine lingers in dreams and in the faint chill that some feel unexpectedly in quiet moments, a reminder that its energy continues to exist beyond the boundaries of time and space. At the Bayou Sara Shrine, shadowy figures perform silent ceremonies among the trees, whispers of old incantations drift through the swamp, and symbols appear and vanish without explanation. The combination of sight, sound, and sensation transforms the clearing into a space where the living and the dead intersect, where rituals persist, and where the unseen presence of history can be felt in every shadow, every flicker of mist, and every breath of the cool, deliberate air. Those who venture into the shrine after dusk quickly realize it is not merely a sight of the pasta, it is a living, breathing testament to the spirits and practices that continue long into the night. Destrehan Bayou in St. Charles Parish, Louisiana, is a winding stretch of water. Fishermen, birdwatchers, and casual visitors wander the trails and waterways, drawn by the natural beauty and the quiet solitude of the region. Yet as the sun dips below the horizon, Destrehan Bayou takes on an entirely different character. Hidden among the trees and along the banks lies the Destrehan Bayou Shrine, a place where the ordinary world seems to fade and the presence of unseen forces becomes undeniable. The first sensation visitors notice upon entering the shrine at dusk is a shift in the atmosphere. The air grows noticeably cooler, carrying with it the damp, earthy scent of the bayou. The wind seems to move with a purpose, curling along the water's surface and through the trees, brushing against arms and shoulders as if guiding or observing. Even in the absence of movement, there is a sense of presence, an awareness that something watches from the shadows. The mist that rises from the bayou clings to the trees and undergrowth, swirling in unnatural patterns that seem to follow visitors along the winding paths. Visitors describe dark shapes gliding silently along the bayou, moving with a fluidity that defies the physical world. Some glide along the shoreline, their forms barely discernible in the fading light, while others drift between the trees, pausing occasionally near moss-covered stumps or fallen branches as if tending to unseen tasks. These figures are rarely fully visible, often glimpsed from the corner of the eye, vanishing when approached directly. Yet their presence is undeniable, creating a tension that is both haunting and mesmerizing. Witnesses frequently report that the figures seem deliberate in their movements, their silent gliding suggesting ceremonies or rituals that continue far beyond the reach of the living. Accompanying the spectral figures are sounds that defy explanation. The words are often unrecognizable, more tonal than linguistic, but they carry the unmistakable cadence of ritual. Many visitors describe the spirits as being aware of intrusions and selectively revealing themselves, creating the impression that the spirits are aware of intrusions and selectively reveal themselves. The combination of the figures and the chants creates an immersive experience that engages multiple senses, leaving visitors both captivated and unsettled. Another striking phenomenon at the Destrehan Bayou Shrine is the appearance of lights in places where no one stands. Small flickering orbs or gentle glows emerge along the shore, hovering near trees or reflecting off the water. Sometimes they illuminate paths or markers, revealing details previously hidden in shadow, and other times they appear in completely open areas, as if floating in midair. The lights are never static. They move and pulse, sometimes retreating into darkness and sometimes drawing closer, following the observer's movement. Visitors often describe these lights as otherworldly, a physical manifestation of energy that refuses to be explained by natural causes. Physical sensations accompany the visual and auditory phenomena. Cold drafts sweep across the clearing, moving along the water's edge or brushing against the legs of those who wander near the shrine. Some report feeling gentle touches on the shoulders or arms, subtle nudges that suggest an unseen hand guiding or acknowledging them. The combination of phantom figures, whispered chants, mysterious lights, and physical sensations creates an environment that is immersive and unforgettable, a space where the past and the present, the living and the spiritual coexist. In a delicate balance, the shrine itself is modest in its appearance but potent in its presence. Hidden among dense vegetation, the area is marked by natural clearings, moss-covered trees, and small, weathered stones, or posts that hint at its historical significance. Local folklore suggests the site was used for spiritual rituals, offerings, and ceremonies honoring ancestors or seeking protection from unseen forces. Many believe that the phantom figures are spirits who remain bound to the shrine, continuing practices that began centuries ago, and that the lights and chanting are manifestations of these lingering energies, keeping the site active even in the absence of living participants. Visitors often leave the Destrehan Bayou Shrine with mixed emotions. Some feel a profound connection to the past, humbled by the enduring presence of unseen forces. Others are left uneasy, haunted by glimpses of figures gliding silently along the water, by chants that echo in memory, and by lights that vanish without explanation. Even after departing, the shrine continues to linger in the imagination, in dreams, or in quiet moments when the wind carries a faint echo of the bayou. In dreams, or in quiet moments when the wind carries a faint echo of the bayou. At the Destrehan Bayou Shrine, phantom figures glide along the shoreline. Whispers of chants drift across the mist, and lights appear in places where no one stands. The interplay of sight, sound, and sensation transforms the clearing into a space where history and ritual persist, where unseen energies remain active, and where the boundary between the living and the spiritual grows fragile. Those who venture into the shrine after dusk discover that it is not merely a place of historiate. It is a living testament to the spirits, rituals, and energies that continue to inhabit the bayou, performing their silent ceremonies in the misty embrace of the night. The final Voodoo shrine in New Orleans Parish, Louisiana, is unlike any other site in the city. A secluded corner where the living and the spiritual intersect with an intensity that is both captivating and unsettling. Hidden among moss-draped oaks and ancient grave markers, this shrine has earned a reputation as the last and most potent of the Sitya's haunted voodoo sites. Locals speak of it in hushed tones, warning that the spirits who inhabit the shrine are bound by rituals older than the streets of New Orleans themselves, performing ceremonies eternally, beyond the comprehension of the living. Approaching the shrine at dusk, visitors often notice the first signs of its otherworldly energy. A sudden chill flows along the ground, brushing against legs and arms as if invisible presences are moving around them. The air grows thick with a damp, earthy scent, a mixture of swamp, decay, and the lingering traces of incense from rituals long past. The mist rises low from the soil and water, curling around tombstones and tree roots, creating an atmosphere that is simultaneously beautiful and threatening. It is a quiet tension, a feeling that the space itself is aware of intrusions, and that those who enter are observed from every shadow. Shadowy figures are among the most common phenomena reported at the final Voodoo shrine. Dark silhouettes drift silently between the graves, gliding along the paths and winding among the moss-covered oaks. Their forms are indistinct but unmistakably human in outline, moving with deliberate grace, performing actions that are hidden from the eyes of the living. Some figures appear near the gravestones, bending or gesturing as if tending to unseen offerings or chanting to spirits that linger in the air. Others move along the edges of the clearing, tracing invisible paths through the trees, their presence felt even when unseen. Attempting to approach these figures directly often results in them vanishing instantly into the mist, leaving only a lingering sense of their watchful gaze. Whispers are another hallmark of the shrine, carried along the cool night air. Visitors report hearing their own names spoken softly, as though called by unseen lips, alongside faint chants that rise and fall rhythmically in the darkness. The words are largely unintelligible, but their cadence conveys intention, a ritualistic pattern that has persisted across generations. The whispers often appear to respond to the Visitora's movements, rising in volume as one steps closer to certain areas, then fading when attention is diverted. The effect is unnerving, a constant reminder that the shrine is alive with energy and that the spirits who remain are aware of every intrusion. Flickering lights frequently accompany these apparitions, casting an eerie, dancing pattern on the walls and floor. Small, glowing points appear without source, hovering among the trees or along the edges of the graves. Some illuminate objects or markers for brief moments before vanishing, while others move with a fluidity that mimics the drifting figures themselves. The lights are neither fixed nor predictable, sometimes appearing in clusters, sometimes alone, casting eerie reflections on the surrounding mist and giving glimpses of details previously obscured by darkness. Witnesses describe these lights as more than visual phenomena. They carry a presence, an energy that seems to react to the observer, creating a sense of participation in the unseen ceremonies being performed. Physical sensations reinforce the haunting atmosphere of the shrine. Cold drafts sweep along the paths and through the clearing, brushing past visitors with the sensation of unseen hands. Some report a subtle pressure on the shoulders or a sensation that something is walking just behind them. These touches are fleeting yet unmistakable, adding to the immersive nature of the Shrinia's presence and the impression that the living are moving through a space that remains primarily occupied by spirits. The shrine itself is modest in appearance, but steeped in power. Weathered gravestones, moss-covered trees, and natural clearings mark the area, while the ground is patterned with subtle depressions and markings that hint at ceremonial practices. Local lore suggests that this shrine was used for centuries by voodoo practitioners to perform rites intended to honor ancestors, commune with spirits, or protect the living from unseen forces. Many believe that the spirits bound here continue these rituals eternally, their actions persistent and deliberate, undisturbed by the presence of the living. Visitors leave the final voodoo shrine with a profound mix of awe and unease. Some feel a deep reverence, humbled by the enduring power of a place where history, ritual, and spirit coexist. Others are haunted by the memory of figures drifting silently among the graves, whispers echoing their names, and lights flickering in the mist with no source. Whispers echo their names, and lights flickering in the mist with no source, in which the shadows, the chants, and the cold drafts continue their presence. At the final voodoo shrine, and moss-covered trees, flickering lights appear with no discernible source. The combination of sight, sound, and sensation transforms the site into a place where the living witness the continuity of ritual and the persistence of spirits. It is a location where the energy of the past is palpably alive, where unseen ceremonies continue without end, and where the boundary between the living and the dead feels fragile, permeable, and undeniable. For those who enter after dusk, the shrine is not merely a historical or spiritual cydia, it is a living testament to the eternal presence of those bound by ancient rituals, performing their unseen ceremonies long into the night. These are the haunted shrines of Louisiana, where shadowy figures perform unseen rituals, whispers carry old spells, and the energy of witchcraft lingers in the air. Each shrine holds a story of tragedy, dark magic, and restless spirits who refuse to leave. If you ever find yourself near these shrines after dark, listen carefully. The wind may carry whispers of chants, the trees may hide ghostly figures, and the earth may bear the marks of rituals long